especially when you have such a heavy a double-digit favorite at that. There is a very detailed and important and necessary weekend for a couple of teams in the NFL. One in which I have been told 9 out of 10 people, it's like the doctor with the toothpaste, right? Or the dentist, I guess, technically. Not to sound like an anti-dentite and separate the two, but it's the dentist with the toothpaste, where 4 out of 5 or 9 out of 10. Every now and again in one of these commercials, they bump it up. They go from 4 out of 5 to 9 out of 10. You know how different? That's like hitting a 13-team parlay to go 9 out of 10 dentists recommend this tartar control toothpaste. And that's kind of how I feel tonight when one specific game, every single person I've talked to except one who I trust when it comes to the number and betting says, take this squad. It's ridiculous. Even the public is on this one squad. Yet, this one person who I trust, who has been right before, who you are familiar with on this very network, says no. In fact, it's the opposite, and I don't know what to do. It should be an easy game to bet, but it's difficult. We'll start 4 minutes from now looking at the big story in the NBA before the Heat Lakers tonight, and that's the back and forth between Shaq, Chuck, and Joel Embiid. And again, since I'm here, well, might as well talk about it. And I'm sorry to the audience out there who thought and was built up by Craig Koshkin before me, thinking it was Eitan Thomas stepping into the mic, all excited to hear insight from a former NBA player, a writer, an author. Instead, you're stuck with me. Sorry.
Messaging rates may apply. Individual results may vary. Exclusions apply.
But hey, I'm buying a huge flat screen TV so I can finally see it without my glasses.
Why not just get LASIK at the LASIK Vision Institute? That's what I'm doing.
My glasses and contacts are a pain. I'd love to finally get rid of these, but who can afford LASIK?
You can. Because the LASIK Vision Institute is offering dramatically low prices and an absolutely free consultation. Just text 233 to 350350. The LASIK Vision Institute has already performed over 1 million procedures. They use the latest FDA-approved LASIK technology that helps the majority of patients achieve 20/20 vision for a fraction of what others charge. Better vision, better value. The LASIK Vision Institute. Make this the year you finally get LASIK. For a free consultation plus an extra 20% discount. Text 233 to 350350.
You want me to actually cut him saying Eitan Thomas and Eitan Chindo?
Yeah. Well, can you do like 2 separate cuts? One? Okay, perfect.
How much will it cost? Well, it'll cost less by booking on besthotelrates.com. BestHotelRates.com works with all the top hotels in the country while delivering you great.
We should do that first if you can get it.
Best prices. Why wait? Go to
I don't know. I mean, if you can, but in this fast. If not, it's totally cool.
BestHotelRates.com. It's in the name. BestHotelRates.com.
Hi, I'm Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt. After I left baseball, I just couldn't stay in shape like I used to. Turns out, once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone, and that can make it harder to get into shape. So I got back into the game.
Hey, question for you, man. Are you able to send me the hours of the show after you podcast them? Okay, thank you.
All you have to do is send one simple text.
Frank's right. Just text NAME to 321321 to get a complimentary bottle of award-winning Eugenics, the #1 selling free testosterone.
I wonder if there's anything.
PNC. Its unique man-boosting formula.
Is this Clippers Wolves game really the only thing I got right now?
Man feels stronger, leaner, more energetic, and more passionate. And guys, she'll like the difference too. Eugenic samples are not available in stores. To get your complimentary bottle, text NAME.
All right, so you have just that one, right? Did anybody put in the actual Shaq Chuck criticism earlier in the week?
I don't think so, but I'm trying to get it right now.
Okay. Trying to get what cut? I'm sorry. Oh, gotcha. Yep, that's cool.
I think I got him there.
Oh, nice. Okay.
To tips on keeping your family safe on the road, AutomotiveMap.com has something for you. If you love cars, trucks, and SUVs, and the amazing technology hitting your favorite showroom,
What do you think about it? I'll play the rejoin and bump back with Taken for Eitan.
Yeah, sounds good.
And then I do actually let me know.
Wait, I'm back with what? I'm sorry. The other one you said if you have to use it.
I have them both, but I was gonna use.
Yeah.
Question if you want Aton Sugar, just call me.
Yeah, thank you.
Second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Aton Shander.
Stay tuned for Aton Thomas.
Now, I feel bad, man, because I've been called so much worse, and you could feel, I could hear Craig Koshkin, who was on the SB Nation radio platforms before me, and previewed the show coming up, and there it was. There was the letdown to be, because now anybody out there listening, and it's not Craig's fault, my name is impossible. So I feel horrible that anybody would have to promote that I'm coming up next, especially if we've never met, and the first time you see my name might be how it's spelled, or Brendan Riley, who produces the show with me each and every Friday night, might be like, oh yeah, coming up next is Aton Shander. You hear that one time, it's somebody speaking a different language. If you hear, coming up next, it's Aton Shander in your ear as you're wrapping up a radio show, first off, that's not easy to react to anything going on in your ear as you're talking. And second, that's like hearing a different language. If English is your first language, like it is for me, and I'm assuming it is for Craig, if not, then I apologize, that's like hearing something, and it's not like a romantic language, right? Meaning like, or Germanic, right? Or whatever you call it, where it stems from Spanish or French, right? A language, that would be like hearing something completely on the other side of the planet as it comes from Israel. So I just, like, you don't understand, I've been called so much worse, especially by people who know me. Like, I've had recurring guests on my program, whatever it is, and I do 3 shows a week, right? So I've had recurring guests on my program before butcher my name. That's right, Eaton. Oh, thanks again, Eaton. Now, that's somewhat of a variation, but I've had much. There's a town, Exton, in basically like, I don't know, 35, probably like 45, 50 minutes west of Philadelphia. And I've been called that before. I don't know if it's just Aton Exton or Exton, they thought, or Exxon. I've been called that, you know, the guy. Does Exxon still exist? Is that still in business? Do you guys? Okay. We don't have Exxon around in here in Philly. We did when I lived in New York and southern Connecticut, but we don't now. Now, poor Craig, I mean, it's not his fault. Again, he's thrown to the wolves here trying to promote a name he's never seen before, I'm sure. So it actually got funnier because from Aton Thomas, at least he got the first name right. Like, that's the most impressive thing about this, is he got the first name right, but then it goes to a different variation.
Stay tuned for Aton Shander.
Look, man, I'll take it any way I can, Craig. I love you. Thank you for even mentioning me. All right? As anybody who works or has worked with me knows, all I care about is that you bring me up. You can rip me to you-know-what. You can call me out. You can play audio back of something ridiculous that I said. I don't care, as long as you're bringing me up. So in this case, I feel bad because here he is doing, that's exactly what you should be doing. Coming up next, here it is, SB Nation radio platforms. You can hear Aton Thomas. And imagine somebody out there in Fort Wayne, Indiana, somebody out there in Tallahassee, somebody out there in Boise, maybe listening in Philadelphia on your way back to Atlantic City, and you're all ready for Aton Thomas, and you're thinking, exactly, that's a hell of a show. Look, I'd stay tuned for that. If my options, and I don't even want to poll it because I know how it would go, and that's not even because it's my followers, it's just because I know how it would go, but I would not subject myself to the personal embarrassment of putting up a poll saying, what would you stay tuned for if you could only stay tuned for one? Aton Shander or Aton Thomas? I mean, let's be fair. I know my place when it comes to the hierarchy of Atons. Top 10 Aton, I'll probably land in it, but I don't expect to land ahead of Aton Thomas.
Wow, that's a phrase that's uttered by most people is like, that is incredibly cocky. If I were to rank the top 10 Atons, I would be somewhere in there.
I would. Now, I'll tell you this.
Say that.
No, not many. So I'll give you Aton Thomas, clearly. Now, the spelling is different, but still, it's the same name. My godfather, and he's a real person, you can look him up, is Eytan Keller, Eytan, and Keller is his last name. Now, he's known for bringing a couple of shows to TV, like if you've ever heard of the show American Gladiators, America's Funniest People, He's done tons of award-winning stuff on Fox Family. I don't know what that channel's called now. I think they've changed the name of it. A lot of sport documentaries. He's also known for bringing Iron Chef to here. So Iron Chef America is one of his shows as well. He's a big producer. That's why, I'm sitting here doing radio and not TV, because he knows me. But that's the thing. Like, I would not ever assume that I call him up and brag if I do like an 8-minute hit on the local Fox 29 here in Philadelphia. So he's got these Emmys and awards and all the other stuff there. I would never assume that I'm above him. So there are 2 Aitons right now that I know I'm below, at the very least. Is that fair? Now, how many more are we going to find?
I literally Googled most popular Aitons and nothing is coming up.
Nothing.
Why?
Isn't that right? Nothing at all.
Give me the whole show. Maybe I can get in.
Okay. Maybe I should put that out.
I like it. Give me the top 10 Aitons.
Unbelievable. All right.
10's a little unfair. Can we find 5 Aitons better than you?
I don't know. Well, I found 2 already. Right?
Right. I think crowdsourcing for 3 is a reasonable request.
So the my spelling is a little more unique. Eytan. And that's why they took that from my godfather, because it was a more unique spelling of the name. The more common spelling, and it's basically it's a Hebrew name, and the English translation of it is Ethan. So if you're familiar with that, now you can't use Ethan because that would knock me off the entire planet. All right, so let's not do that. But my point of it is that the common spelling of Aton is usually Eitan. So maybe if you Google that, most popular Atons, Eitan, you can find that, and maybe you can knock me off. But right now, I'm sitting still. This is like DraftKings when you're playing a DFS tournament, right? This is day 1. Like, I've played a bunch of Thursday night guys right now in a Thursday through Monday night tournament, and I'm sitting there winning like $15,000. And it's only a matter of time before you start bringing up more names, like playing more players on a Sunday, and I slowly see what I'm making dwindle from 15,000.
Made a very good GPP move by giving you a contrary name.
There you go.
Your name would do very well in a daily fantasy tournament.
For names, right? For unique to popular names. I need it one more time. Let me get Craig one more time, setting up the entire world for disappointment, previewing Aton Thomas.
Stay tuned for Aton Thomas.
I love it, man. That's awesome. Like I said, Craig, I love you, man. Thank you for at least bringing me up. And I can't believe, of all things, you got the first name right. Like, do you know how difficult that is? Seriously.
And for the record, like you said, he's hearing this in his name while talking.
Yes!
And if you've never done that, that's not that simple. Like, it's a complicated thing to do in the first place, and he's still got the first name right.
That's what I think is the most impressive. Look, I would have no doubts whatsoever now, if I'm producing that show, if I'm producing Craig's show, if it's you or anybody else who has to produce Craig Koshkin's show moving forward, one thing you know is that man is a rock when it comes to talking, and you can throw stuff in his ear. Okay, I got the cut. All right, let's go here. You have to break 10 seconds. Like, you can, and anything you can throw at him, he's just a rock. He can just keep flowing. And as you mentioned, there are a lot of people in radio that are good hosts, that are successful, that are capable. And look, I've done it as a producer myself, and I'm shocked at the fact that people just stop. Wait, what? What? Like the record stops in the middle of a song, and you're like, what happened? What happened? So all the props of the world to Greg for knocking the first name out of the park, by all means. That Shando Show is how you get me on Twitter. See, I don't even throw Aton on there. You know the difference? Like, I wouldn't even throw that on there as well. Twitch is Maze and Aton, so a bunch of people on the Twitch channel. Thanks, Trevor, from the 203, throwing some bits at it. Basically saying, didn't understand why Aton Thomas who, and throwing on this whole thing about how I should tell him to Google him. So there's this famous back and forth with the Philadelphia radio host and Skip Bayless, where this was years ago, man. This has got to be like 14 years ago, something like that. No, maybe less than that. Probably like 8 years ago, something along those lines. And Skip Bayless came on, and it was a contentious interview from the jump. And the local host here is really good at interviewing people, especially people that he doesn't like, because it's not like a quick hang-up. Oh, I can't do this anymore. I mean, he'll get 8-10 minutes of an argument, of a contentious argument, and it's compelling radio, and this really was compelling radio. So in the middle of it, Bayless is like, I have no idea who you are. And look, this guy, the host he was talking to, is an accomplished host. He worked with Stephen A. Smith in New York City. Not Skip Bayless, I'm saying, the radio host. He's dominated Philadelphia airwaves in the afternoon for a long time. So he's been on any major television show to represent Philadelphia, especially ESPN stuff. So he's a known guy, and his response was, Google me. So, of course, that became a drop, and anybody in and around Philadelphia, if that ever comes up, and it comes up a lot with my name, people will be like, Google me. All right, a lot of people want to talk about Oscar Lindblom tonight. Now, we had this Joel Embiid thing going on, but it looks like, at least from the audience here, a lot of people are interested in what's going on with the Oscar Lindblom story. So I can't really get into a lot of, as far as, what's going to happen moving forward, but I didn't want to really open up with this thing, not only because we're not Philadelphia-based, but really because it's a downer story. It's a tough one to really try to comprehend as a sports fan. But I think that there is a greater conversation to be had about this that's not necessarily specific to the Philadelphia Flyers, but really to sports fans, because there are moments in sports, and you know what? I know we had the Joel Embiid stuff, but this just kind of popped in my head, and I think it's at least worthy of exploring until 10:40 Eastern, where we look at a busy weekend in the world of MMA. But there are moments in sports where we connect due to the humanizing of the athlete, where a lot of times they're a fantasy football player, they're a commodity, they're a name on the front of the jersey and a number, not the name on the back. And sometimes it does take a story like this in order to remember or at least recognize that, and it's probably worthy of at least mentioning not only the specifics, but the broader part of it as well. And I mentioned a busy night in the NBA for the Heat and Lakers going at it in Miami. Another big win for the Sixers following controversy, maybe, and I'll do my best to shoot that down as well. It's a busy first hour here. Eitan Shander, SB Nation Radio. That was hilarious, man. Hopefully he doesn't. Alright, good. Is he going to be on next week?
He did say he's going to be around a lot over the holidays.
Okay.
The host of the NFL Red Zone channel. Have you gone to the bathroom yet during any of the 11 seasons?
I took my first bathroom break last year in about 6 years. People won't believe me. I literally dehydrate myself before the show, and those 7 hours, I am sitting in that studio, locked in, dialed in, with no food, no bath.
I was trying to cut that last break. Was there other audio you wanted me to grab?
So we have the Embiid, right?
People get with it. People, when they're
Is there anything from earlier in the week with Chuck and Shaq talking?
Wait a minute, I ran to the bathroom. What is Hanson going to the bathroom? And people wonder, do I really hold it or am I...
No? Yeah, that's fine. If you can, that's no big deal. And then there was also... Oh, is there anything from that popped up from tonight's game? Like, I don't know if News Call put a highlight up or something? Heat Lakers game. That would be the only other thing.
As we play this song, maybe our shows become better. SB Nation AM with Tony D. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. There's just certain things that go into the NFL right now that is incredibly frustrating.
Where did you see the MMA article that references the first time? Is it the Colby Covington? Is it the... Any way you can link me that, please? Okay, thanks.
Patriots -3. I have the Saints -2.
I told him that I said it's coming from the perspective of the curious casual. A lot. He's gotten very good at explaining the sport to people who don't know anything about it.
Good. Man.
I think
So,
it's good that he's prepared.
John Anik is one of the top play-by-play guys in that business, UFC, and he's like a good college buddy of mine. Like, I hung with him for years in college. Like, he's a good friend of mine. So he's probably like he'd kill himself, he'd kick himself, I'd say, if he never watched me struggle through.
When you brought it up, I was like, I can get you one, but I don't know if you want to. I'm like, I'm not going to be any help for you.
No, I know.
Scratching beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Eitan Shander.
All right, just to bring up what I mentioned before, as far as this story that came down in Philadelphia with a member of the Flyers. 13 minutes from now, we're going to look ahead 3 gigantic MMA fights. Big fights going on this weekend, all in the same night. And we're going to do our best here to get you updated and really from not only a fan standpoint, but also from a betting standpoint. I think that's probably the easiest way to ease you in here because let's be honest, it's going to be Saturday night, and if you're watching your local NBA or NHL team, that's one thing, but you could also look at the landscape of trying to make some money on 3 gigantic fights that are really going to have a lot of opportunity, even in the undercards, and that's where we're going to look at that coming up in 12 minutes with somebody who knows a lot more than I do about any type of betting / fight advice that we can give. So Oscar Lindblom from the Philadelphia Flyers, 23 years old, and this came out earlier this evening. Diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. He's out for the rest of the season. Ewing sarcoma is a type of cancer that forms in the bones of soft tissue. He's not going to play the rest of the year, treatment right away, and when something like this happens, and it's not necessarily to the severity of the level of disease and sickness that Oscar has been diagnosed with, it doesn't have to be in the form of cancer, and it's not as trivial as a knee injury or a shoulder injury. I would never equate the two. So there is a line. There is a, not even thin, but I would say pretty thick line of when something happens to an athlete, where you're watching your favorite team and one of those players, something in life happens. And a lot of times, because I think we're conditioned in the world of sports talk media to talk about the negatives, not like this. I mean, the negatives of, oh, well, this guy got in trouble, he got arrested, DUI, threw his girlfriend through a wall, or got into a bar fight, or, punched a cop resisting arrest, tased. That's the juicy, salacious stuff. And when something like this happens, it's taboo. We stay away from it. Oh, it might get a blip, it might get a mention, but it's not really looked at because, of course, nobody knows how to handle something like this. Or if you do, it's like death. You handle it in your own way, and there's no real significant path to getting from point A to point B when dealing with something this serious, this grave of an issue. But it does happen in other forms that aren't nearly as serious or even life-threatening as what's happening with such a young man in Oscar Lindblom. But there are moments that humanize the athlete. And I don't know why that doesn't stick with us more. And it is an issue. I mean, Chris Spielman is a name that comes to mind who dealt with tragedy inside of his life with his wife. And when we see this in Philadelphia, here I am for decades now, and we've had athletes come and go that have had personal things happen to them. And somebody's child, Cliff Lee, came here with his wife and kids, and there was an issue that they had to go through with the CHOP, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. We've seen this, and I think at times it doesn't resonate. And I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know if the point should be the next time you're sitting front and center and you see Cliff Lee give up a game-losing home run, you should remember that this guy's going through a ton with his child and not boo and sit on your hands. I don't think that is the logical leap either, but I think it comes more in the form of social media. I think it comes more in the form of just the general discussion. Like, you should be able to boo, you should be able to go out there and express your disappointment with your teams, but there are few times in life where we're watching these guys who we do, for better or worse, and whether or not you tell yourself, I don't do this, whenever you're talking about them and discussing professional athletes, even down to Division I basketball and football players, it's looked way more as commodity and as number. And look, this is not to talk about guaranteed contracts in the NFL, or these guys are human beings, and stop saying, you ruined my fantasy day. That's trivial stuff. Now, guaranteed contracts are a little less trivial, of course, than the fantasy rip. But, I mean, rare moments where we just completely remove the barrier. And it tends to happen mostly, and I guess I understand why, because that's what brings people together, through tragedy and through sad and difficult times. Because even a championship, while you are at a championship parade and you might be screaming and yelling with the thousands of hundreds of thousands of people who might show up, the players are removed and they're in their bus and in the podium. Very rarely is it an intimate moment, if ever, with the players celebrating something like that. After a gigantic win, even forget the parade, but the celebration on the court, on the ice, on the floor, that isn't with kids. You don't rush the court in an NBA championship. Game 6 of the NBA Finals, and your team wins it on home court. You're not rushing the court like in Cameron Indoor or a Final Four game, depending on where it's played. That doesn't happen in professional. Nobody rushes the ice after Game 7 of the NHL Finals, triple overtime, game-winning goal. It doesn't go down that way. And in this case, nobody's going to get to meet or shake Oscar Lindblom's hand as a result of this, so it's not like there is a sense of personal space that's knocked down by any means, or removed, a barrier, if you will. But there is definitely a humanizing moment to this. And it's beyond the phrase, it goes beyond sports, because a lot of things go beyond sports. I think it's more the phrase, it humanizes the athlete. And it's unfortunate that we live in a sports society where the athlete needs to routinely be humanized. But you have to, as a fan, understand that there are moments where it's up to you to discern, and this is this is an easy one. Not all are obvious and not all are easy. But you have that opportunity to remember when you look at your team, and when you look at a guy who's at the end of his career, and you look at a guy who has gone through something, if you look at tragedy, and unfortunately I can remember where I was in the next show that I did following the passing of Roy Halladay. So it's not always something like a diagnosis. Sometimes it's just the removal of somebody from the planet. And it reminds you about why you have a connection with that team or maybe that athlete. And at 23 years old, I don't know how strong of a connection people have individually with Oscar Lindblom, but I can tell you this, they sure as hell have a connection with this team. And like other teams around the country, the Philadelphia Flyers have been a staple here in Philadelphia and the NHL for a long time. So it's one of those things, you're family because you're family. You're in with the Flyers, you're automatically family. And give it a couple of years for somebody to really suck, and then all of a sudden it's, now you're like that person at the Thanksgiving dinner who wants to bring up the opposite view of politics and just can't wait, and it's just pissing everybody else off. Why don't you go sit at the kiddie table, or maybe you take this Thanksgiving off? I don't know if that's ever happened. I don't know if anybody has ever had that happen in their family. I worked with a guy, I can't out him, but I worked with a guy in Nashville who had to tell a family member, don't come down for Thanksgiving. Now, this is 2008, so you can understand how volatile the political climate was back then. when the previous president was elected, but he actually had to tell like a blood relative, we can't have you down here this year. It's too crazy.
So, I spent most of that entire segment looking for the Jack and Chuck and
yes.
stuff. I didn't realize how much there was. So while you're doing this next segment, I'm going to be kind of chopping through it to see what I can find.
Okay. I don't want you to like kill yourself, man. Please.
I mean, you're going to do an interview, so it really doesn't make sense for me not to. Is there anything in particular that you think you know?
Just the criticism, specific criticism from him.
I didn't realize it's been going on for a couple days. They had him on. It looked like yesterday. Like had like a conversation with him. That stuff was good too. I don't know if you saw that.
Well, the conversation was last night.
But there's like criticism from a couple days ago, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anywhere else. So check out
I guess I missed on that NBA thing.
Change it up this year. The gift won't disappoint. Message and data rates may apply.
You see that article? What's that?
Yes, thank you.
For hair loss.
My hairline keeps creeping back. Receding.
But that is bald spot.
Do you have his Twitter by any chance?
Razor, because Bosley, America's #1 hair restoration expert, is about to give you your real hair back permanently.
It's just Dave Doyle MMA.
Dave Doyle MMA.
Absolutely free that reveals all the signs, and a free gift card to anyone who texts KIT11 to 85850.
Nice.
Bosley will show you for free how great your hair could look. Using the latest technology, Bosley's solution to hair loss is permanent and protected by the Bosley Guarantee. Plus, since Bosley has new non-surgical...
I don't know what happened. I thought I had a...
Text now for an absolutely free information kit and a gift card for $250 off, no matter what level of hair loss you have. Text KIT11 to 85850. That's KIT11 to 85850. Message and data rates may apply. Please don't text while driving.
If you've been in business more than 20 minutes, you've probably printed your logo on all kinds of promotional products. We all know logos work because they're on everything, from the top of skyscrapers to the bottom of shoes. Ever wondered why? Or how to best use your logo to grow your business? Let us show you today for free. We're 4imprint, promotional product experts at your service. We're giving away the latest issue of Amplify, the digital magazine that reviews promotional product successfully.
Awesome, thank you.
To everyone who texts ACT22 to
Damn it.
8988.
That Jazz Wolves under didn't hit. Fucking DFI, man.
Thousands of promotional items. With our 100% guarantee, it'll be right the first time, on time, every time. Your free e-magazine will reveal invaluable
What was that
insights
final?
that can attract new customers, build your brand, and grow your business. Get the latest issue of Amplify absolutely free by texting ACT22 to 88988. That's ACT22 to 88988.
Scratching beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Eitan Shander.
All right, as promised, we have an education coming your way. Because there is a gigantic card Saturday in Las Vegas, the T-Mobile Arena. Huge pay-per-view event, triple header, if you will, here. And for UFC 245, we bring in Dave Doyle at Dave Doyle MMA, senior editor at MMA Junkie, the MMA JA Board of Directors, Eitan Shander, SB Nation Radio. Dave, truly appreciate the time tonight. And if you could just put in general terms, in perspective, because we know that the beauty of UFC fights is that there are main events a lot. It's not like boxing where you have to wait forever and maybe you get one or two a year. But put in perspective, if you can, Dave, just how big of an event this particular one is on Saturday night.
Oh, this is a great one. I'll tell you what. I know some of the listeners maybe they're kind of more casual fans who only tune into UFC or boxing when something becomes really big. The reason why this one has bubbled up, it does not feature a Conor McGregor or a Ronda Rousey superstar, but there were three just absolutely tremendous title fights, one after another at the top of the card. In each case, it is clear-cut. This is the number one and number two person in each division. Sometimes in UFC and boxing, you might get, for various reasons, a title fight where maybe the challenger isn't the best one, but they might sell more tickets, or there's this reason, or political reason for that. So this one, all across the board, it's basically when three can't-miss championship fights, and, if there was a UFC card that was terrible and wasn't worth your time, I would not be shy about saying it, but like I said, if you were someone who just kind of pick and choose and drops in on the fights every once in a while, this is one worth seeking out.
Okay, so if I were to only allow you to talk about one fight for the rest of the interview, and of course we're going to talk about everything right down to the odds, but hypothetical here, what's the juiciest action that you can preview for us on this card? One fight.
Man, that's sure. So the main event is a welterweight title fight between a guy named Mario Richmond and the challenger named Colby Covington.
Right.
And so Covington is the one who's been getting most of the headlines coming into this because he has gone out of his way to actively, he almost plays like a pro wrestling bad guy type of character. He made a confrontation at one point that he was just going to be really outrageous and over the top to try to differentiate himself from everyone. But the thing underneath all this, even though a lot of it is just kind of groaners and cringy and eye-roll worthy, he's a tremendous fighter underneath all that. The difference between fighting and wrestling here is that, there's a real fighter underneath this, and he has won 7 straight fights, just 10 out of his past 11, and his opponent, Kamaru Usman, is also, he has won all 10 of his UFC fights. He's been very impressive. Defeated one level of his competition has increased one after another. The thing that makes this fight so intriguing is that inside the cage there are absolute mirror images of one another. Colby was a collegiate wrestler at Oregon State. Kamaru Usman was a Division II collegiate wrestler, but still had that strong wrestling base. Both of these guys just have cardio freaks of nature. Both of these guys, although they use their wrestling to kind of pressure their opponents and set each other up, have really underrated striking games. So again, it's like two better images of each other as fighters, and given that they're kind of equal in everything, it's really going to come down to, as cliche as it sounds like, who wants the ball, who has the ball, who has the heart. So, yeah, that would be, again, there's plenty to choose from
Sure.
cards, but that would be, if I could just pick one, I'd go with it.
Are you surprised that I see Usman's not even a 2-to-1 favorite at minus 185? You mentioned there's been a ton of talk about Covington leading up to this. It looks like that's actually influenced some movement, so he's at plus 160. That looks pretty tight as far as just eyeing this fight from an odds standpoint.
Yeah, sure. Like I said, these guys are pretty evenly matched, and at the end of the day, I don't know why.
Is it that big of an upset, I guess I should say, if Covington... Right, and I'm sorry, I guess I should have phrased it, Dave. Is it that big of an upset? Because from an odds standpoint, no. But from a fight standpoint, how big of an upset is it if Covington does win this match?
Not huge, because again, I think because Colby goes out of his way to kind of make a clown out of himself on stage, people end up sleeping on the fact that he's actually really, really good. So, not as big of an upset as it might look like on the books.
Dave Doyle joining us at Dave Doyle MMA, senior editor, MMA Junkie, the MMA JA. A couple of other fights, and I don't know if you want to go to the Nunes fight, because you can do the better job of pronouncing who she's fighting. Germaine de Randamie? De Randamie, okay. Now this looks like it would be more of an upset.
The woman who kind of, for a couple of years we had Ronda Rousey, you had her main rival, you had Holly Holm, who's very famous for knocking Ronda Rousey out. And Amanda Nunes it's the woman who just came up through all this clutter when all these other women were passing the bantamweight belts back and forth, and she just came through and just wrecked everyone. And then on top of that, she went up in weight class to featherweight, and where fighter named Chris Cyborg had been undefeated for about a decade, and she won the featherweight title too. So Amanda Nunes doesn't have again the star power of someone like Ronda Rousey or BK, but fans know that when you get an Amanda Nunes fight, you're going to get an exciting fight. You're going to get someone who wants to go out and finish the job. In the case of Jermaine Durandamy, she's an excellent fighter as well. She's a kickboxer. She has just strong all-around skills. She's a former featherweight champion herself. All that said, these two fought 6 years ago. Amanda Nunes won the first time. Jermaine's much better. I think it'll be an exciting fight while it lasts, but I have a hard time seeing Amanda losing.
Yeah, I was going to ask then if there was much value there in taking the underdog. But the other one that I guess we should look at, right, is Holloway versus Volkanovski. I'm sure I butchered his name too. But again, okay, nice.
So, that Holloway is, many people think that on this rank, too, that he's the best featherweight champion of all time. Conor won the belt and immediately he never defended it, so that doesn't really count. Max says that's the great fight in the division. He's very exciting. I keep saying these guys are exciting fighters. That's why it's such a great fight.
Sure.
Tough. It's attacked from all different angles. Never know when he's coming with that. Just keeps getting his lined up well now, basically. It's just going and going and going. Volkanovski is a dude that I would hardly, if you wanted to talk about a top player of Australian, it could come up with, a sort of Paul Hogan, coming up with that little stereotype. He would just kind of quietly come out and just wreck people, one after another. He was former champion Jose Aldo in his last fight. He defeated every challenge that he was in place punishment that you think he's really showing that what he's made of. He's aced that test. So Volkanovski is I just wanted to say that the toughest challenge that Max has since he won the featherweight title.
Wow, he's at plus 150, and Holloway I see is at minus 170, so that's even tighter than the Usman-Covington match right there. As you laid out, it's going to be tough to get value on Holloway, but it might be. Now, okay, so let me ask you this. Before I get to the Uriah Faber match, because I am intrigued about just how much of a glaring underdog he is. It looks like it would be the value, like if you were going to try to find value in the main card to parlay two fights, it would be the dogs of Volkanovski and Covington. I can get that at plus 150, plus 160. Stay away from Jermaine, and I don't know if you like Aldo, but at least for those two, it sounded like that. You could get some value with those two if you wanted to parlay them.
I wouldn't take Aldo. The thing about Aldo is he was featherweight champion his entire career. He's getting older. This is his first fight going down to bantamweight. Earlier in his career, when he had talked about going to different weight classes, they talked about going up 10 pounds to lightweight. He looked absolutely emaciated on the scale today, and he looks like everything about this is a bad idea. And he's facing an absolute killer in Marlon Moraes, who's the guy that basically known for coming up with like innovative, violent ways to knock people out. So I would not go with Aldo.
All right. Speaking of which, that's kind of paraphrasing the write-up I saw of Peter Yan, who is a minus 475 favorite, near 5-1 favorite, to knock down or at least defeat Uriah Faber, who again is a name that even I think the casual fan kind of knows, maybe because of his acting as well. But that is it his age? Or is it Yan's true ability to just hit somebody hard over the head?
It's a little bit of both. Yan is basically the next up-and-comer great bantamweight fighter, but he hasn't had the platform to do, to show basically. Now the money shows that the small fans understand what he's capable of doing. The big part of this is, taking your fighters, he retires for 2 years, came out of retirement, earned an impressive win in his return fight, which he won in under a minute. But, the dogs here are probably sizing this up and seeing that any fighter can win a fight if you just put someone, I'm not saying he got a lucky punch, but it's certainly a well-played punch. Uriah retired because he was struggling against guys along the lines of Jan, who are really talented, but maybe didn't have the championship name value. So props to Faber for taking this fight because he wants to prove that he's serious. He's still a contender, but yeah, this has all the makings of the new guy making his name at the hands of the previous star.
Dave, last one. Really appreciate this, man. The time, the insight, just the attention you can spend with us. Dave Doyle, MMA on Twitter, senior editor at MMA Junkie, the MMA JA Board of Directors. Is there a name on the undercard that the average fan, the diehard fan, the bettor who looks at just the numbers and trends, is all of them are going to look at that and say, yeah, that's the fight we want to see because of that fighter?
This undercard fight, it's a welterweight fight between two guys, Matt Brown and the guy that's been around forever, and then some other guys that's been around forever.
Brown's a heavy favorite here. I see Brown at minus 345.
Yeah, which is kind of a wild, kind of a wild number there. But because Saunders is a really really put it this way, Saunders is definitely a live dog. He's the guy that is not he's not a championship level fighter, but has pulled off some crafty victories in spots where you didn't think he would. But that's two guys that you look at them and you're like, wait, why have they never fought before? They're both exciting guys. Which is like anything that can happen fight, and if I have to, I'll put my money on there.
Awesome, Dave. Thank you so much, man. Have a great night. Enjoy the fights. MMAJunkie.usatoday.com does it all. All right. Want to look back at one name, at least a fight that Dave mentioned, and hit up some comments on the Twitch channel. If you're watching Maze and Aton on there, at Shander Show is how you get me on Twitter. It's SB Nation Radio. Nice, man. That was awesome.
I was just about to say, I actually think that was really good.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. Thank you. He's really big in that too, so that's.
I didn't know he was able to keep up with you on the gambling times tonight.
Oh, that's awesome.
The expert team personally reviews and visits each spot to make sure you get the best experience. And if you're coming back, sign up for free Culture Map updates at culturemap.com.
Or chat with Herman Moore, former Lions receiver, 4-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro. You played with Barry Sanders for all those years, and he had so many highlight runs. Herman, was there a time where you watched a run that Barry Sanders made where you're just like, wow, this is incredible? Is there one specifically that jumps out to you?
The one he takes at home when he turned safety around 2 times. Also, the one when the infamous Mission Kim Norton Jr. just falls to his knees trying to tackle him against the Cowboys at home. That was a big one. I think that was a playoff game regular season. It really took many of them, and if you're not doing your job as myself or my other receiving unit guys where your back is always to him, so we always have to wait till film day to see exactly what the moves were and what the odds were about the chance of Barry, because we always got second after everyone else did live, but that was special.
The Break with Bryant Barrett, weekday mornings at 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. SB Nation AM.
Nobody is better at preparing his team in the postseason than Belichick, and we've seen this hook up many times. That's why Patriot fans, by the way, booed yesterday. Guys, what are you doing? This isn't Boston. This is like the standard. You're not Philly. chill. You've had 6 parades for crying out loud with this football team. That was just last year. Exactly. He's such a spoiled bunch.
SB Nation AM with Tony V. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. The main event.
Yeah, man, that was really good. Thank you.
Some Patriots meet? Yeah, no worries. I'll definitely have a bunch of D&D, Shaq, and Chuck stuff ready next hour.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Order up and
Let's see if there's anything.
We'll get the Bears sick. We did get the Vikings sick in the season. And if Minnesota probably played the first weekend, they would get someone in the NFC playoffs sick. And this is how the Patriots master plan works. The winners of the NFC have the flu when they get to Miami. Somehow this ends up with New England winning.
We should get somebody on to talk about SmackDown, man.
Somehow this is all
This thing trends every single night. Top 5 trend.
totally down with that.
I have a couple of wrestling dudes, I'm sure, but I don't know if you do as well. Actually, to reach out to former wrestler.
Somehow they stay completely healthy because they all got special shots, and the rest of the NFL. I don't think I currently do. But I mean, I could always. Yeah, I actually love the idea. That's a good call. And it's on while we're on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Scratching beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's 8-time Schefter.
What's up?
There's this crazy video. It's actually pretty cool. And I've seen this happen. I'm sure you've been part of this as well, where there's an accident or something happens in an intersection. People get out, they check if people are okay, the cops, ambulance, they're called, but it's an intersection and traffic isn't just going to stop. People need to get and maneuver the other cars around in order to keep flow before the cops and the ambulance and anybody else that's a professional that needs to get there. So Kobe Bryant was, I don't know if he was involved, it looked like he witnessed this accident. It was in Newport Beach, December 13th, so that's a Friday. No matter where you are around the country, it's still a Friday for you. And he got out, it was all caught on camera. Direct traffic around the incident, and then, of course, authorities arrived. But Kobe was out there, like Kobe was directing. And it's funny because, like, there are 2 ways you could go with this, right? The first is the easiest, obvious way, and let's do it. Round of applause, congratulations. Kobe Bryant has more to risk getting out of his car to do anything in public than any of us do. And there is a little bit about a celebrity going out of their way to help us. And we love that, and we applaud that. He's done this before. In 2018, he actually helped and involved people. But the best part about it is, like, can you imagine the look? It was like, he probably gave the same look to Swaggy P when he didn't pass him the ball back before he got out of the Lakers. If somebody was like slowly driving through or not, you're not a cop, what are you telling me? Can you imagine saying no to Kobe? Man, you're better off saying no to like Shaq or Chuck. All right, I'll be right back. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
The main event.
Do you think Trump watches NFL Red Zone? I bet he watches the Giants fight. That'd be the biggest downside of being president is all the stuff you have to do when good sports is on. That's why I could never be president. That's why? Yeah, I wouldn't be able to govern the country when I had to, keep track of, what the Yankees were doing on a Tuesday night in mid-June. That's the reason. That's why I love Ron. I would never do that to the country.
The main event. Weekday afternoons at 4 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. This is the gold standard.
Based on previous history of the Patriots, and to some extent the success of the Patriots, but especially when there has been cheating in the past, people are going to jump all over there. You do not get the benefit of the doubt when you run over the Patriots when it comes to cheating. Sorry. Even if this is a complete mistake, the Patriots don't get the benefit of the doubt, and you're telling me an organization run as smoothly as they have been over the years, that they just made a simple mistake and forgot to notify the Cincinnati Bengals and the NFL about this? We're supposed to believe that? I think you're pretty naive if you think that the Patriots did nothing wrong here when it comes to to shooting the sideline of the Cincinnati Bengals. First of all, they've admitted that they didn't go through the proper channels. And there's no way I'm going to believe that it was truly just, oh, well, we forgot to make that phone call. That was it. So, no, I'm not buying this whole thing being an accident by New England.
The Gold Standard with Alex Gold. Weekday nights from 10 to 1 Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
Headed to Texas to watch your team play, but don't know where to go for that pregame drink? Visit CortureMap.com for all of the hottest spots in Houston, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, and San Antonio. From the most popular bars to those favorite dining gems, CortureMap has it all. Then before you leave town, why not visit some of the best places to shop or see some of the sights? CortureMap has extensive coverage on all the things to do in the city you're in. So check out CortureMap.com. That's CortureMap.com.
SB Nation AM Radio.
Doug Hodges, the Steelers quarterback, he is a championship duck caller. I don't know what in the world that is. He apparently has been asked exactly what that is, and he has an answer for us.
You know how I would call as well while you're hunting. No, I the competition calling that to do, it's gotta be pretty well.
What is this? Oh my God, that is so great!
That's your quarterback, Tony.
That is awesome! But he has one in his little pocket. He gets it right, and he looks around at the defense, and he just goes, meh, 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 and we go from Peyton's Omaha to Doug Hodges, bringing two worlds closer together.
SB Nation AM with Tony V. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. This is Straight Heat.
Major League Baseball wants the Astros to be guilty of using electronics to steal signs. Rob Manfred wants to hammer them as hard as possible to make an example out of them, because he didn't make a big enough example out of the Red Sox and Yankees in 2017.
Straight Heat with Patrick Clayton. Weekdays from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. Eastern on SB Nation Radio. SB Nation Radio. This is Straight Heat.
Major League Baseball wants the Astros to be guilty of using electronics to steal signs. Rob Manfred wants to hammer them as hard as possible to make an example out of them, because he didn't make a big enough example out of the Red Sox and Yankees in 2017.
Straight Heat with Patrick Clayton. Weekdays from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. Eastern on SB Nation Radio. SB Nation Radio. The main event.
Is there anything more lame than the Bengals players dumping the Gatorade on Zach Taylor for winning his first game? You're 0-11. They appealed the Gatorade ban. Or you were 0-11. You're 1-11 now. You appealed the Gatorade ban. It just doesn't seem justified when you lose that many games. What are you doing?
What's up, Gatorade? Gotham Green.
That wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, wouldn't it be? The orange color, just the Bengals.
Okay. Sorry. I did, honestly.
Alright, I'm here, sorry.
Honestly, I'm not getting it. What are my numbers?
This always happens. We preview something that we never get to, and then it's like, well, we can't. Now what do we do? Because we previewed and we tweeted it.
Sounds of this.
Well, I didn't tweet any of this time because I think that time and it shows that.
Oh, okay.
Also, sorry for.
Yeah, let's do the. You can specifically mention the Embiid thing. The contrarian NFL pick of the week, and Home Alone 3.
Hey, are you all on this big Disney Plus kick that everybody's on?
Interesting. What about Home Alone 3?
Well, they're redoing it.
Being said, Hudson, right? You consider remaking it?
Yeah. Well, it doesn't make any sense.
You pay for somebody to attend one of your games.
The easiest thing you do is you face it like the show's over. You FaceTime them.
Afternoons at 4 Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
Yeah, that is very weird.
You can't, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm going to bring up an example. There's another movie which I'm sure you've never seen before, called Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah. And it's another example of, like, movies are fine where they are, but technology allows, like, you can't redo something because the advent or furthering of technology precludes a lot of the plot to, you know what I mean, to go down. It's just... Right. Oh, here we go. Warriors about to knock off the Jazz.
Or slightly above the normal listening level. Let's go. Second level thinking is defined as looking beyond the
Now it's off the board.
obvious conclusions. You gotta do some smart thinking. Welcome to the second level. To the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Here we go beyond the box score. Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Brooklyn Roads. Rocket Mortgage is with you every step of the way. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's your host, Eitan Shatmatak.
Second hour, and yes, we will get to Joel Embiid's response to Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal. In fact, he said it right there in front of them. Spoke to them following it. We also have, this hour, the NFL Contrarian Play of the Weekend. It's not even brought to you by me. It's brought to you by another host on this network who doesn't even know that he's being mentioned because he's the only person who insists that this result is going to go down. And this has happened to me before with him, where I've doubted and I've bet against and I've got my ass kicked as a result. So I will bring up the situation, I will bring up the game, and I will out the host as the one lone contrarian who is taking this team.
Can I just make sure real quickly we're not referring to Jake Asman, who says he walked out
No.
of the studio yesterday with Jets money line?
No. First off, I would never, ever bet anything that has to do with Jake Asman plus New York Jets. Ever. Because the man...
He's so positive on them. That's not the vibe I get from New York fans generally.
No, and that's what's strange is... First off, I'll listen to Jake talk about anything. He's a fantastic, strong sports talk host, especially for a guy who is as young as he is coming into. He does not sound. He's a very seasoned and intelligent man. Yet there is this small little block of reason and logic that whenever he talks about the New York Jets, those things are removed, and it's like, no, I can't listen to anything he says. So I would never bet on it. Now, Jake Asman plus fill in the blank, I'm fine, unless that fill in the blank is the New York Jets. So no, this is not the case. It is somebody else, and I'm nervous because it just doesn't make sense. Bottom of this hour, 11:40 Eastern. We're going to go to Nashville. The hottest team in the NFL is the Tennessee Titans, led by Ryan Tannehill. I also just locked in the Warriors on the money line. Let's ride, second hour. Oh, man.
This is Wesley's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
When I'm just getting off work, there's only so many hours left in the day. So I definitely don't want to spend all my time waiting in line for car parts. With O'Reilly's, I can buy the parts I need online.
Man, I can't lock this in. It just won't let me lock it in.
I don't have to worry about losing daylight to get my car up and running.
Live betting on an app is just so frustrating, man.
I love baseball. I just couldn't
You know?
I can imagine.
Turns out,
It's like, especially an NBA or NHL game,
and that can make it harder to get in the shit.
odds of one of your selections have changed. Odds of one of your selections have changed. No shit, I'm going back and forth in a frickin' NBA game. Like, let me jump in.
Right, like just give me what it was.
It's at plus 333 now.
Just text MAIN to 321321 to get a complimentary bottle of award-winning Eugenics, the #1 selling free testosterone boost.
Of course, sports gambling is now legalized in Michigan.
Yep.
A patented key ingredient clinically researched.
Indiana's the only one that's a holdout, right?
More energetic and more passionate. And you got
I don't know. There's states all over the place.
No, I'm saying in that region. There's one state that I think, God, it keeps dropping.
4 months ago, now it's big and legal.
That's MAIN to 321321.
And I highly doubt it will be anytime soon either.
Exclusions apply.
But hey, I'm buying a huge flat screen TV so I can finally see it without my glasses.
Why not just get LASIK at the LASIK Vision Institute?
Now it's up to 180.
My glasses and contacts are a pain. I'd love to finally get rid of these, but
How did you want to handle this audio? So I have the original comment that they made about Embiid shooting too many threes. Then I have the conversation they had with him where, they were like mentoring him, basically. And then I have his response.
That's fine.
Okay, you'll just call it whatever.
Yeah. So what's the first two again?
Institute. Make this the year you finally the original comment about him taking too many threes.
Yeah.
And then when they like basically told him why they said like it was a mentoring thing, the conversation I had with him yesterday. The one that led to his response.
Got it.
Exclusive on motivemap.com, a brand new website for anyone interested in what's happening in the world of automobiles. From reviews on the latest vehicles to vintage rides to tips on keeping your family safe.
I'm still trying to get in here. Actively trying to get in. It keeps dropping and dropping. This is such a fucking shady operation. My God. I have this on video. Alright? I have you bastards on video, and I'm gonna put this up and post it and email you suckers at customer service. It's now dropped to plus 105. Been trying to get in since it's plus 300. Alright, I'm destroying Fox Bet right now on the air. They don't advertise with us, right?
Not currently.
Good.
Scratching beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Eitan Shander.
Alright, public service announcement, which is basically a public Shander announcement. For the last 5 minutes, 5 minutes of real time, I've been trying to get in on this god-awful Fox Bet app in Pennsylvania. So if you are in a state where betting is legal on an app, my God, stay away from this one. And it's on film. You can watch it at Maze and Eitan on the Twitch channel. It was 300. I was trying to get in at 300, and it kept processing and bouncing me out, and processing and bouncing me out because the odds kept changing. And I even selected the auto, which is accept a decrease or increase in odds to speed up bet placement. It refuses. So now, conveniently, look, the game is going on, and I'm still trying to get in. I can't believe that this app could be so bad. And the problem is that this is where I won a bunch of money earlier in the week, so I'm trying to bet off this money before I add or go anywhere else. I don't want to withdraw and then add again. I'd rather just play out on this app. Unfortunately, this is a representation of how awful in-game betting is with the app. And when you have an app like Fox Bet, where they're just not prepared, look, I still can't get in. It's over and over. This is now a 6.5 minute process. Can you imagine? There's game time going on. The value has been lost at this point. At plus 105, I had them at 3-1 as far as plus 300. And then, of course, the game keeps going, and now we're in a situation right now where the value, at least, that I could have had is gone. They're up 2 with 4 minutes left. The best I could get right now is for a full timeout. I still can't get in at a full timeout at plus 105. Boy, I tell you, it can't only be in Pennsylvania. If you live somewhere out there that live betting is available via app, it can't just be here in Pennsylvania, and it can't just be the Fox Bet app. It has to be somebody else. It has to, I would imagine that it's not just this crap app and this inability to do anything on it. I mean, think about it. You're now at a full timeout and you can't get a bet in on a money line. What does that tell you? People are constantly looking for ways in which they're being cheated in this world of sports betting, right? There are constant conspiracies about, well, the games are fixed. This is probably the easiest thing to point to, which is, man, 3 minutes of game time has since passed in which the Warriors have gone from plus 300 to now plus 105 on this particular god-awful app, and still they're not taking bets. Up 2 with 4 minutes left, the app is still unable to handle this bet. I've never seen anything like this. And again, maybe this is just the push to get you into the brick and mortar. I don't know at this point. At Shander Show, decide to get me on Twitter. It's a disgrace, if you ask me. And I imagine that there are people all over the country that are dealing with in-game betting from an app standpoint where it's just impossible to get something in. So I'd love to hear that as well. Now, people, I mentioned this on the show on the last hour before we broke. So I don't know what you think about this, Brendan, but it's an interesting point raised on the Twitch channel. So I mentioned at the end, or no, I think you and I talked about this actually in the break. Sorry. I get confused because we roll live during the break on Twitch. So if you're watching, you get to hear Brendan and I have conversations, and you get to see me watch TV and other stuff going on in the background. But the point of it is that we mentioned that as great of an interview as Dave Doyle was in the MMA world for Saturday Night's Fight, next week we should look at having somebody to come on to talk about SmackDown. Because I'm truly interested in it. I have no idea about the specifics. Zero. I think it's more like for the people who are interested, who don't really know about it, or think that it's just the old days of Hulk Hogan running around in a leotard. Like, this thing has evolved, and it's a top trend each and every time we're on the air Friday night.
If you're not, by the way, I haven't watched wrestling in a long time, but if you're not following wrestling fans on Twitter, it's a good time. As somebody who's not watching it, I have a lot of friends who do, a lot of people I follow who do. Like, this is the only reason I'm even familiar with what's going on. But WWE Twitter is a good place.
See, I don't know enough about it to get in there. What's the best value about WWE Twitter? Is it just that you get interesting commentary?
Yeah, I think it's... So here's what this is going to be my best explanation.
By the way, Warriors Jazz still off the board. It's ridiculous.
I think that the people who tend to watch WWE are usually more creative people. And it's the same sports fan base a lot of times, but they're like the creatives of the sports world. So instead of just a bunch of regular sports fans having your, stats are cool, but they're not as entertaining, right? Like it's different. When I'm on sports Twitter, if I'm on NBA Twitter or my team, Pistons Twitter, like I learn a lot of.
Oh, dude, stay off Sixers Twitter.
A lot of times you get good information. A lot of times there's good numbers there, but it's not the same. It's not as funny. It's not as entertaining. In fact, I saw a tweet like 2 minutes ago that said something along the lines of, "Guys, I know we like to complain about refs in football, but WWE refs are a bigger problem." That's an entertaining tweet.
Yeah, that is pretty funny.
That's what you get in WWE Twitter, because these are a lot of times very creative people who are into this. I don't know what to call it. Into this form of entertainment.
I think it's more. It's like we don't have anything like this, where it's a true combination of athletic ability, sport, if you will, and drama, like a television show, right? I mean, there's nothing. The only thing you could look at that might come close to this would be. No, I wouldn't even think that. No, that is funny now. That I guess I took it literal. Sorry. But I think it would be like some sort of reality show, the next great fighter, or something like that. Yeah, or something like a game show. No, but I think you would have to stretch. We both did in order to find something analogous to WWE. There really is nothing in either the genre of sport entertainment, because you lead with sports, that's really what it is, and entertainment like TV drama that combines the two, like wrestling. Right? I mean, nothing has anything like that. That's fascinating. And you say that they're a more patient fan base. See, I always assume that...
That's creative.
Creative, sorry. Yeah, I don't know why I said patient. No, they're not. You're right. I always assume, though, that the WWE fan is a fan of other sports as well. Like, I don't associate it with an individual sport. I feel like... Oh yeah, I'm a Cowboys, Lakers, Yankees, and King Kong Bundy fan, or something like that. And clearly, I'm dating myself, but
I do agree. I think a lot of them are sports fans. I just think it tends to be the sports fan who gravitates towards wrestling is the more creative type of person.
Okay.
Where if you're on, you said you don't like Sixers Twitter. I bet
it's got all.
Sixers Twitter who are very analytical. It's very numbers, and there's nothing wrong with that. I enjoy that. but I think it doesn't lead to as entertaining of a Twitter experience.
It's also completely negative. Or it's seek out the problem with Sixers. I can't live tweet and interact with people, even people that I want to interact with on Twitter during Sixers games, because it completely ruins the experience.
Same, but the opposite for the Pistons. Pistons Twitter is so unbelievably positive. The moment you tweet something negative, you have, I'm not even kidding, 40 or 50 people just coming at you with gifts and just telling you your opinion is atrocious.
Yeah, see, I don't understand what that is. Like, how can you sit and watch the Detroit Pistons and rest in some realm of positivity?
That's
when
a good question.
I don't understand. And to be fair, there's a lot of things up there.
How can you watch the
Well,
Sixers and be so negative?
because here's the thing, though, it's not negative overall, but there are issues. Like Ben Simmons doesn't shoot, right? And he's not aggressive from the outside. So those are problems. When they lose and he disappears at times in the offensive side of the half court, there's a problem. When Embiid only puts up 19 or 20 in a loss and he doesn't instill his will, we're going to get to that coming up about the comments from Shaq and Chuck. People are frustrated with his conditioning, things like Brett Brown. There are times in which the sets might not look. You see what I'm saying? Like, there are basketball issues. But my point in all of this, as far as not being able to interact with my own team's Twitter fans while they're playing, and I don't know if this is the case with other people. You can hit us up at Shander Show. You can call the show 800-224-2004, SBNationRadio.com as well. I don't know if this is the case, but it's like if Ben Simmons does something, like let's say tonight, Ben Simmons were to take 2 threes and nail them both. 95% of Sixers Twitter would be responding to some stranger, some straw man that they've just created and say, you see, to all the people out there who said Simmons, it's like the first thing you do when something positive with your team happens is turn around and seek out somebody to say, I told you so, and put your finger right in their face. Like, that's what drives me nuts about Sixers Twitter specifically. I can't handle it. I can't watch a game and follow along on Twitter when people are using any type of positive moment to turn around and say, I told you so, you see, you're wrong. Like, what is that? Who does that? See, you deal with overwhelming positivity. I deal with this insistence to find somebody and point in their face and say, we proved you wrong, we proved you wrong. Do you understand any of that?
Oh, yeah, no, I get it.
Okay, because I don't. Can you help me?
I thought, no, I don't understand the desire to do it.
Okay. You get what you're saying, but you don't understand the desire to do it. All right, again, at Shander Show, Twitch is Maze and Aton. And mentioning about SmackDown, this is what brought this whole thing up. We'll break, we'll listen to Embiid, Shaq, and Chuck, and then chat with Teresa Walker, who covers the Titans down in Nashville for the Associated Press. Mike Savage, 610E. The only thing with talking smack talk is I think it might be delayed for West Coast, and you don't want to spoil it. So how do we handle that? See, I don't know how we handle the time issue.
Why do they do that? That doesn't make any sense. You can't do that in today's world because people watch it with Twitter.
I agree.
That's true. That's atrocious.
I agree. Now, what is this more like? Let's answer this question when we get back. Is it more like spoiling a live sporting event, or is it more like spoiling a TV show? Like, oh my God, I can't believe they killed fill in the blank on Game of Thrones. At Shander Show, SB Nation Radio. Hold on, one sec. I gotta get my charger.
A brand new website for anyone interested in what's happening in the world of automobiles. From reviews on the latest vehicles to vintage rides to tips on keeping your family safe on the road, AutomotiveMap.com has something for you. If you love cars, trucks, and SUVs, and the amazing technology hitting your favorite showroom, check out the brand new AutomotiveMap.com. The Break.
I had to ask
the question. Does anybody like daylight savings time? Like setting the clock back an hour? First of all, let's remember we did this weekend, Saturday into Sunday, really early Sunday morning, 2 a.m., right? So you have the daylight savings time. And it's dark now at it starts to get dark at 4:30 in the afternoon here, locally where I'm in Massachusetts. I don't understand the benefit of this whatsoever. Why do we do
Man,
that?
I tell you, this is tough.
It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
I can't believe that I couldn't get in this game. It's good too. Now I'm happy.
So I looked it up, and it is true. It's delayed on the West Coast, and that is legitimately mind-boggling. I would love just to talk to somebody behind the scenes who makes a decision, and just legitimately love to just understand it, because I think WWE is one of those things that takes place on Twitter. I guess you're just betting on they're not following people not on the West Coast.
I don't understand.
Because I don't know about you, but when I watch sports, having live Twitter makes watching sports better. If I'm watching on a delayed stream and I can't be on Twitter because of it, it makes my viewing experience worse. I would think the WWE is the same way.
Huddle for legendary games against the Steelers and Cowboys, and relive one of the most controversial plays ever, the Mike Renfro play. Red Line and Columbia Blue. Download now at Houston79.com. SB Nation AM.
So why would it be delayed on the West Coast and not aired live, right?
I don't really know, because it's not like they're starting way too early either. It's an 8 p.m. Eastern time start, so it would only be 5 p.m. I guess they just don't want it that early.
I just tweeted it out. Maybe I'll get some answers.
You're not a bad team. You're actually playing well for what you have. I don't know. Honestly, I find it really fascinating because I find the whole experience of watching stuff with other people on Twitter fascinating. I said here. 3 hall passes, exactly. Just a heads up, all this audio we have is fairly long. I mean, nothing crazy, but 30, 36, and 50. Made some plays on defense. Good job building for the future. That's what I say. By the way, you go ahead and send you all 3 hours once they're all done, or do you want each one if I put them on?
Whatever's easiest.
It's easier if I send them all at once.
Yep, totally cool.
Nation Radio. Scratching beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Golden Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Eitan Shander.
Alright, some activity on the Twitch channel, Maze and Eitan. So Mike Savage 610 says the obvious answer would be that Raw would start at 5 p.m., so it would be live in Los Angeles at 5 p.m. local time. But I look at it and say, we have games that begin at 8 p.m. Eastern all the time, every night. There's something of value. Early games in the NBA start, if it's a primetime game, 8 o'clock.
Could you imagine take-the-rank sports like that?
No, not at all. And that's what I'm saying. Like, these have results. These matches have results. Hell, I think you can even bet on this stuff. On the global market, I think you can actually bet and find this. Let me see if I can hit this up here. I know that I have, I don't know if you're a Star Wars guy. I am not. Are you?
Not particularly.
Okay. Not meaning what? That's...
I've watched them, I've enjoyed them, but I don't love them.
Okay, are you familiar enough of what's going on in the Rise of Skywalker to give betting advice?
No, definitely not.
So if I were to ask, will Baby Yoda make an appearance at minus 2,500 no, plus 1,000 yes, 10 to 1 that it could go on as an underdog, you'd say nothing. You would abstain.
Well,
Like my Arnie Navy pick, you'd abstain.
I don't know to know that, you don't need to necessarily know that this. You just need to be able to judge. You're familiar with how big Baby Yoda is, right? So
Yeah, but the movie's already made. Rise of Skywalker's already made.
Yeah, but they knew Baby Yoda was gonna be there.
Did they?
That's why Baby Yoda exists.
What is this, 12 monkeys? They traveled back and now they understand what worked?
I think Baby Yoda exists to be a meme. That's the entire reason. I mean, I don't know.
That's why I refuse to watch that show. It's the only reason why I refuse to watch that show.
I don't watch the show, but I mean, the moment I saw that, are you kidding me? So Yoda's already an iconic figure, right?
Right, and then,
And
yes.
a baby and
No.
you make it cute. I mean,
That's the problem, is they're trying to redo everything. And look, the Home Alone 3 thing is trending as well. Like, why? Why is this a thing? Why do people need to understand, after watching it, how bad of an idea it is? Like, why can't you just prevent this from going on? Did you know that there was a Home Alone 3?
No, you informed me that, and I also don't think that'll work. It will work. The reason we're getting all this stuff is because people my age need things from their childhood to we just do. We're very nostalgic. I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Millennials are very nostalgic.
Yeah, I get it. Like, go get an 80s lunchbox, okay? Go buy a He-Man tin lunchbox. You want to be nostalgic? Do that. Stop ruining movies. And I'm not saying you, because I guess I'm 41, so I'm on that line, right? I guess I'm just over it. But I get it. You know, like late 30s, there are people that are younger than me that I work with that sound like they're 55, 60 years old and curmudgeon. But it's not, I understand, like, I get the need to be nostalgic. I am over the top nostalgic to the point in which I'm in a time warp when it comes to the music I listen to. Pop rap has ruined real rap for me, so I'm stuck in like a 90s to early 2000 hard, heavy East Coast. No. Here's the thing. I don't, because first off, I don't, it's not for me. I don't hate it. It's just not for me. And Common said that best maybe 10, 15 years ago. But the other part about it is I would much rather you play what's popular than not, right? Because I would much rather you play something that is popular to the majority of people listening as opposed to like just me. Now sometimes, you could throw in some late 90s, early 2000 East Coast hip hop, but the reality is that if Taylor Swift has a song that is quadruple platinum and you come back with it as a rejoin, then I think you're doing what a radio station that plays music should be doing, right? Is honoring the widest net. So no, you can play, I would never quit, unless it's something that I hate. But chances are that I might not even know it. I might be like, what is that? No, that's West Coast. That's Coolio. Come on. All right, now, if you came back... Look, if you came back with this song, I probably would stop you and ask you what's going on.
It's the only song I have old enough for you.
Like, what did I do to offend you to the level in which you would return with Coolio? You couldn't even give me Fantastic Voyage. You gave me that one. Gangster's Paradise. Yikes. So Home Alone 3 is just like what you said with Baby Yoda. This need to recreate, this need to come back. Now, this was in 97, Home Alone 3 happened. Do you realize that?
That sounds about right. I would have been 4.
Well, it was released on Thursday, December 12th, which just happened, in 97. I had no idea this movie even existed. It's not even with Macaulay Culkin. Now, that's an example of a movie that couldn't be redone due to technology. See, think about that. A movie like Home Alone could not be redone now, could not be remade today, because all they do is say, some Alexa command and show that person or access their Nest and show the kid on video camera running around with his shoes off, eating ice cream, yelling, "Kevin, what are you doing? We can see you." I mean, that's it. That's the movie. The movie's over in 8 minutes. They leave, they forget them, they're on the plane, the Wi-Fi's on the plane, they access the Nest, they see the kid running around with his clothes off, eating chocolate, dousing himself in chocolate syrup, and they yell through the phone, "Kevin, we can see you. We're sending over Uncle John right now. Make sure you shower and clean up all that chocolate sauce." That's it. That's the movie. Uncle John shows up. There you go. It's an 8-minute short.
Would you be okay? I was just about to say, would you be okay with the short?
That's a short.
I kind of like the idea. Instead of remaking 4 movies,
just give us
an update of all of our favorite movies from the 90s.
Just to see what's going on now?
Exactly. Just give me an 8-minute update on everyone's life.
I tell you, that's not a bad idea. We brought up the Eitons earlier, and my godfather, and maybe I can pitch that to Eitan Keller. That's not a bad idea. You could have a YouTube. You could have...
It would strike gold.
Wouldn't it?
I mean, you'd have to obviously deal with all sorts of legal aspects of it, but boy, the idea behind it, I love it.
I guess you could just recreate it, right? Like, I guess you could look at a movie and on your own limited budget, recreate something of it. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, honestly, Leighton, I genuinely believe this would work well. So just find me the people and let's make it happen.
Okay. Now,
I can act.
I'm with you too. We could find some way to do this. When did we bring up the chocolate? Oh no, it wasn't with you. I think it was with Jack on Saturday that I brought up chocolate and cheese and how it's something like chocolate and cheese. Do they go together? And I think initially you say no, but I feel like chocolate and cheese have been paired together, right?
Leighton, I could write a book on how chocolate and cheese go together.
Okay, so I'm glad you say that because it came up and Jack and I think Creighton came up next and they were all anti and looking like vilifying me like I was some monster for bringing it up. And Ball 316, the Boston Strangler, checks in on the Twitch channel, Mason Aton. By the way, chocolate and cheese go together at a wine party. Shit, we missed that. I was trying to find ammunition, man. See, I needed you. I was trying to find some ammunition about how those two go together. And that's right, you do get it at a... What about fondue? Can't you do that way as well? Teresa... Okay, I guess you're right. Teresa Walker, AP, Nashville, next. What do you mean? When? When I got the comment, what? I'm sorry?
About the wine tasting?
No.
Even a universal... I might have just misheard it.
Did I?
I didn't think you actually did, so I wasn't worried about it. I was curious. Alright, better price. So, this is a weird thing that me and my brother both do, and I don't think very many people. Like, I've always been told it's weird. Whenever I have chocolate, I want cheese after.
That's strange.
I know. But, like, I crave cheese after getting chocolate.
Something unique.
And my brother is the same way. My mom and dad weren't that way. He didn't get it from them. He got it from me, obviously.
They have items like purses, apparel, home decor, jewelry, and more. But they are local Texas brands that will be hard to find
That's strange.
anywhere else. So check out giftymap.com. Change it up this year. Your gift won't disappoint.
Do you have Teresa's...
Yeah, just check. I think you sent it earlier.
Yeah. So it's at Teresa M. Walker is her Twitter.
You're gonna have to give up and shave it. Dude, put down the razor because Bosley, America's #1 hair restoration expert, is about to give you your real hair back permanently. Don't ignore the signs of hair loss. Bosley's giving away an absolute
Texans Titans, man.
reveals all the signs and a free gift card to anyone who texts KID11 to 85850. Bosley will show you for free how great your hair could look. Using the latest technology, Bosley's solution to hair loss is permanent and protected by the Bosley Guarantee. Plus, since Bosley has new non-surgical options, you owe it to yourself to text now for an absolutely free information kit and a gift card for $250 off, no matter what level of hair loss you have. Text KIT11 to 85850. That's KIT11 to 85850.
Message and data rates may apply. Please don't text while driving.
If you think
all kinds of promotional products. We all know logos work because they're on everything, from the top of skyscrapers to the bottom of shoes. Ever wondered why? Or how to best use your logo to grow your business? Let us show you today for free. We have 4 imprint.
Alright, text her.
The digital magazine that reveals promotional product success stories absolutely free to everyone who texts ACT22 to 88988. At 4 imprint, we make your logo look perfect on thousands of promotional items. With a 100% guarantee, it'll be right the first time, on time, every time. Your free e-magazine will reveal invaluable insights that can attract new customers, build your brand, and grow your business. Get the latest issue of Amplify absolutely free by texting...
Good thing I didn't get in on that Warriors game, huh?
I'm going to text her a number too, just in case. Because I have had one guest before who it goes to voicemail when I call in.
No, just in case.
Yeah.
I told her it's come from a Houston number.
I don't think she's turning it down. It's going straight to voicemail.
Maybe the phone's off.
Scratching beneath the
That's very possible.
on SB Nation Radio.
What's the number?
SB Nation Radio.
1-800-224-2004.
The O'Reilly Auto
That's the
Parts
number she'd
Studios.
call you on?
Yes.
Okay. So there is a contrarian play of the weekend, and I was told about it by one of our own on one of my local shows here in Philadelphia. Every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern. I know that's early for you West Coasters. I apologize. It's only 4 o'clock out there, and things can't begin, apparently, until at least 7 o'clock local time in California. Apparently, that's the reason why SmackDown needs to be delayed, so a lot of people just have to wait and might even get spoiler alerts if you're on Twitter. Think about that. This is very popular. It's trending on Twitter. You can't have something that's simultaneously trending on Twitter and you ignoring it on Twitter. It doesn't work like that. So the contrarian play came from Matt Peralt, who joins me each and every Wednesday at 7 on my show here, What Are the Odds, in Philadelphia on iHeart. And we talked about this game because everybody that I speak with here, from casino to tout to expert, somebody selling picks online, to one of the best, smartest guys that we've had on this program before, the PGF and the Godfather, to people that are at the books, respectively, Parks Casino locally where I'm at, a bunch of different people. And everybody's saying the same thing until I got to Peralt. And that's where I didn't know what to do, because this thing has happened to me before twice, because I've had him on a bunch, and we used to do something on the weekend before that Sunday show shifted over. Now we're doing the NFL Rush, but before that we had him on in the morning to kind of give out a teaser, and we go back and forth there. So I've been burned betting against him, as he's been the lone voice, the exception to the rule, saying, no, don't take that team, take this team. And it's coming from conversations that he's had over in Vegas. So now I'm torn, because I don't know what to do. It's just way too obvious of a game to go against. And it's not something like the Broncos-Chiefs where, okay, that line is just too big, 11.5 now down to 10, and people betting that accordingly. It's not even something like the Patriots-Bengals, which at one point was down to 8.5, at least locally where I am at the Hard Rock, and is now back up to 10, rightfully so. Hell, even my Eagles have been bet down to 5, somewhere 4.5, and now it's kind of floating back up to 5, 5.5, but at one point was bet down. No. It's a team outside of Jacksonville. You know what? We'll get to that coming up, because we are instead of the negative, let's focus on the positive, and that is the hottest team right now in the NFL. That is the Tennessee Titans. We've been talking about Ryan Tannehill and the change at quarterback, what it's done, but this team is on fire. They've got a big one hosting the Houston Texans on Sunday. So wanted to go down to Nashville and get some insight from one of the best minds covering the team. That's Teresa Walker. You can follow her on Twitter at Teresa M. Walker, covers the Titans for the AP. 8-time Shander, SB Nation Radio. It's great to chat, as always, Teresa. Appreciate your time tonight. And is it that simple? Has it just been the change at quarterback that's shifted this team from kind of hovering around to 500 at best to now a legit contender to win this division?
Well, absolutely. And now here's the thing. Derrick Henry is really great. So it's a great combination. He's the play and the play action, but Ryan Tannehill is the guy who is just throwing the ball down the field. He is leading the NFL in yards per attempt. I think it's 9.8 at this point, and he's leading the league in passer rating. He's second in completion percentage, so he's throwing effectively, and they haven't had him throwing so crazy. He had his best go throwing against the Oakland Raiders, but 6 months of that was 91 yards on the pass to A.J. Brown, but he's been effective, and Derrick Henry's been running, but it's the combination, this offense seems to just come to life with those two pieces, and it's tough not to look at Ryan Tannehill being the this piece, because he's given him the threat of the pass, and if anything works, Jacksonville, Marcus Mariota, the guy who finished defenders in that first half, just struggling to find open receivers to get the ball to him, and Ryan Tannehill has put the ball on guys, the ability for them to catch it and run, and that has been huge for this offense.
How about the offensive line. How much has that shifted? I know Taylor Lewan was suspended earlier. How much has the health and just consistency of the offensive line been a difference, and maybe just a change in variable for Ryan as opposed to Marcus? Not saying that that's the difference in play. Clearly, Ryan Tannehill has been outstanding, but has the line simply been better for him, or is it Ryan's just been outperforming?
Well, the line has been better, but it's funny. You look at the sack numbers, and Ryan Tannehill has been sacked one less time through his first 6 starts as compared to Marcus Mariota's first 6 starts of the season. So, but they have gotten better, and where they've probably gotten better is that run blocking and helping Derrick Henry and just managing people. And this last game, second time this season that they've gone a game without allowing a sack. So, but they have improved. And the biggest area of improvement probably is his penalty. Taylor Lewan, kind of publicly and apologized for all the, he had 9 penalties in his first game back at team high, and he kind of went off on himself after a game and apologized and said he'd get it better. And he has. He's gone out games without getting a penalty flag thrown his way. So that may be where they've had the biggest improvement, allowing, and that's the thing. Now when the offense takes 1 step forward, they're not taking 2 steps back because of the penalty on the O-line.
Teresa, you mentioned Derrick Henry. First and foremost, I saw he hasn't practiced all week, still has a Q next to his name. Is he going to play?
He told us yesterday that he'll be playing. He's the guy who looks very ready and eager for this game. Now that said, anything can happen with a hamstring, and they're being very cautious with it. Now, the week before, a couple of weeks before that, he was on the injury report with the hamstring. Didn't practice on Wednesday, Thursday, limited a little bit on Friday maybe, and just kind of nursed his time. He's been playing pretty well on Sunday. So, we'll find out on Sunday, but his first 2 weeks he's not playing, but kind of takes care of his big running back. He's, right now, second in the league in rushing yards. He's 38 yards behind Nick Chubb, and tied for the league with 13 touchdowns rushing. So, he's a big component of this offense. So, at this point, it does feel like he'll be running, but if you watch any of that game against Oakland, he's had a 20-yarder that, in previous weeks, if he was completely happy with that running, he might have taken it to the end zone. So, he was asked about that, where he's kind of nursing the hamstring, and he just said that he had a nice little one-liner. I was being nice.
Teresa Walker joining us at Teresa M. Walker, covers the Titans and all Nashville, Tennessee Titans and beyond, Nashville sports from the Preds and even the Grizzlies out there in Memphis, joining us on SB Nation Radio. There was this report, I think it was last week, and we were just shocked by it here on the show, that they still have yet to be working towards a contract extension with Derrick Henry. Is that accurate?
It is, and he was asked about this in training camp. He's here to do his job. He's not worried about his contract status. He has never been usage that it's an issue for him right now. And maybe it's having played at Alabama and Minnesota, but he's focused on the task at hand. And someone asked him Thursday, you mentioned the rushing title, but let's face it, would be a really great negotiation with. And he's like, no, he's looking for winning playoff appearances and wins there. Those, for a guy who won a Heisman and playing for championships, that's what his goals are set on. Because here's the thing: you do those things and win titles and championships and playoffs and etc. The pay will come, and he's just one of a handful of guys on his Titans roster in the final year of their deal. Ryan Tannehill will be paid for him, but he's not under contract for next year. Logan Ryan, who's been a huge part on defense at cornerback and having just a career year, he's in the last year of his deal. The right tackle got conference last year of his deal. So right now in that high locker room, is kind of an approach on the now and not the future contract.
Wow, how likely would it be then, Teresa, that this team wins the division and Derrick Henry's not a Titan next year?
Well, now that's another thing, but it feels like, while they may not be really talking or looking at that right now, tough enough to see that Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill, followed by Logan Ryan, are the top 3 players that John Robinson will have to be looking at trying to get a contract done. Transition franchise tag before the league year starts in March.
at Teresa M. Walker joining us on Twitter, at Shander Show, 8-Time Shander, SB Nation Radio. I imagine that it's all thumbs up as far as the response and the job that Mike Vrabel has done with this team down in Nashville so far, Teresa.
Well, there was two things. There's an awful lot of chatter on social media. Firing, get out of here. He doesn't know what he's doing. You know, this is just a hot mess. And it's amazing what winning 4 straight, 6 or 7 do for a coach. They're pretty happy with him right now. And I will say this, I am very curious to see what the attendance is on Sunday. You know, it's going to be a December game, and the forecast is going to be real good. Might have a little bit of rain. We'll see. But they've been asking since the game ended last week in Oakland for people to come out, be loud, and support them. And it's been a while since this stadium has been filled with Titans fans. They have lots of other fans come to town and enjoy the nice national weekend. We'll see how they respond, because we'll face it, for 2 of the final 3, you're hosting a playoff game in January. And this franchise has not done that in a decade.
Is that the talk of the town? I think on the outside, people would anticipate, or at least expect, an NFL city that's first in their division, taking on a team right there battling for that same slot, 2 of 3, the final 3. It's got to be boiling over and crazy right now, but to each their own in different cities, and I know that there are a bunch of other things. It's not like Nashville only has one sport in one city, and that there are a bunch of other things going on, but I'm curious, just, you mentioned social media, I know you do hits on radio locally as well, and just watching the TV, is this all consumed? Is it Titan mania right now, or is it still kind of a secondary thing?
It's building. It's definitely building. Last week in Oakland, that's a game that this franchise is too often lost. So just when the momentum was starting to build, they just took right over their feet and lose one. They went out to Oakland, and Houston did that very same thing to Denver. They managed to win in Oakland. I think there's still some folks like, well, can I do something the week that they would lose? But getting our hopes up, we're going to get all excited, and then they'll give us tickets in the face. That said, I've gotten several emails saying that the ticket prices for this game are going up. So I'm thinking that does indicate some interest. It's been some time since I've seen that place fill to the rim with Titan fans. I'm going to have to see it to believe it.
Do they win? Do they beat the Texans and set up a tough 2-game stretch, Saints and then Texans again, but 1 game, 1 week at a time? Do they win on Sunday?
I think they do. The thing that brings out is that Derrick Henry questionable, but Houston Texans 27th against the pass, and they're going to win a team that is just on fire. So you do that, A.J. Brown, it seems like that's going to be a combination for them to take advantage of it. Now that said, all they have to do is beat the Texans. They win on Sunday, they're in the regular season finale, then they're going to be AFC South champs. It doesn't matter what happens against the Saints next season.
Teresa, really appreciate the time and the insight, and I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of things down there from the Titans, even the Grizzlies. We'll find a way to chat about some stuff. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, anytime.
At Teresa M. Walker on Twitter. Something that she mentioned about its building, it's growing. I was there for 2.5 years. I got a chance to have Teresa on my local radio stations, and as you can hear, she's fantastic. But it's something else. There's another fan base down there that you may not know. It's a pretty cool story. And Teresa opened the door with a comment about it building and growing with Titans fans. But there's another fan base there that deserves a lot of recognition. I'll hit that next. 8-Time Shander, SB Nation Radio.
Have you ever been that angry over anything in your life the way Saban was angry at the end of the first half? If you're watching that kind of anger,
Nice. All right.
usually followed up by a guy grabbing his left shoulder. Right. That was
Did you have anything you want to hit on with the fantasy thing?
scary anger. No, we
Is-
can definitely fix it.
Is there any other sport you want to talk about?
Until Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
Nothing in particular.
Well, the 2-time NBA MVP, a 14-time.
You not have anything you're looking to get to?
No, we can.
I would say we can still definitely. We've had some good DFS stuff without having anything in particular.
Right, that's true too.
I can also try and think of something.
And look, I'm still people this all the time. You know, I was raised on the West Farm. So I got that old soul, but I want to see how you did it. No excuses. You line up. We got our first kids. We give the credit to the guys and we'll see you next time. And I tell them all, just get on the phone. I said, I'm a little rest. Like guys taking rest now? I'm like, what about rest? It's called playing basketball. How about this? Why don't you rest at nighttime and then be on top jobbing and get your rest?
In the Post with Elvin Hayes, Saturday mornings on SB Nation Radio.
She was like, sorry.
The main event.
No problem.
Jose, you're up. What do you got for us?
I don't know why. There's a host that Dave Smith has from Australia. Dude, I can't call him. Every time I try to call him, it goes like,
Really?
yeah, when he calls us, it's fine.
Man, I need the talents in that three. I guess I should bring up at the start of the next hour how,
The main event. Weekday afternoons at
you know what would be funny is if
Nation Radio.
I did like a 5-minute apology to Fox Bet, and then we juxtaposed the two segments.
That could be kind of
Every dentist advice to every patient they have. Do you know anybody who flosses after meals? Or is it too tech?
I think I could probably get, if you want to do that, I think it could be hilarious. Like your angriest moments, and then you kind of responding to them.
Okay, just live responding to them?
I think it could be fun.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. I think it's a great idea.
At floss, the cavemen used to use the toothpick.
No.
You suck
Was
it.
that at the 12?
Yes.
You know this? Just scientifically, it's been proven. Their teeth, all their teeth fell out. What do you mean they had no teeth? Yes. They all fell out because they rotted out of their head. If they live long enough,
This is the best promo we've ever had.
everything in
What
history
is it?
is news to you.
Take history lesson.
Man, you should have heard some of my promos, man. When I did the overnight.
The main event.
I'm sure they were great.
Yeah, I'll,
SB Nation Radio.
because they were all, like, mostly non-sports.
I figured they were.
Yeah.
Scratching beneath the surface.
By the way, I do have real estate from New York too.
Oh, yeah, I figured. 1240, right?
Yes, sir. Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Eitan Shan.
Think about a fan base that's new since 1998. When I lived in Nashville, try to get through this fast, because we only have a couple of minutes. Third hour is jammed, as you can imagine. Some things happening live with the Clippers and Wolves. I owe somebody an apology. You're going to hear Eitan Shander drop to his knees on the radio. I might do it live for the Twitch channel. All right? I might. Hey, that's a hell of a tease for the visual right there. You might see me do the segment on my knees with my arms and hands crossed, looking up to the camera, begging an apology, because I eviscerated someone, something, if you will, and it's deserving of an apology at the very least. We've got fake news with Brendan coming up in the final hour. So I was in Nashville for about 2.5 years, and I saw this up close. There was an owner of the Predators who wanted to sell it so that they could be taken to, I don't know, Oklahoma City, I think it was. It was another area outside of Nashville, and they were going to take away the Predators. And because they were so new, and it was hockey in the South, there were a lot of people that thought, okay, good, take the team. We don't need it. They're bullying up the convention center. There's too many people in there. It's fine. The old stadium here, it's too much. We don't need it. It's not generating much money. But, and I was part of this. I wasn't a ringleader by any means, but I was part of this. And we saw the value of kids growing up and watching a team that's new to them, especially a sport that's new to them. And the attendance, the merchandise, it's through the roof. These people were brand new to hockey in 1998, and they've seen a Stanley Cup loss, mind you, but still appearance in 16, and they fill this place up. It's awesome to see that. It's a really cool story in sports. All right, man, I'll be right back.
SB Nation AM.
Irishman playing with Detroit footage. Hoffa's last known whereabouts was lunch
launch in suburban Bloomfield Township. I'm looking forward to seeing this too. So how do you make it from Bloomfield Township to MetLife Stadium? The MetLife Stadium, the Swampy Meadowlands. Because isn't it part of the foundation? Yeah, that's what that's the word.
SB Nation AM with Tony V. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. This is Street.
This is what the Cowboys are becoming. A team that has no heart. They have no guts. They have no backbone. They are the spitting image of their head coach. And Jerry Jones, who's always been a pioneer, always been the guy who's going to put his stamp on things, the guy who's going to make it work. Jerry, all of a sudden, he lost the cojones. All of a sudden, that guy doesn't have the guts to get rid of a bum head coach who's dragging his team down. As long as Jerry continues to leave things the way they are, he is accepting the train wreck that his team has become. Super Bowl aspirations, if they're playing on that.
Straight Heat with Patrick Clayton. Weekdays from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. Eastern on SB Nation Radio. SB Nation Radio. Introducing AutomotiveMap.com, a brand new website for anyone interested in what's happening in the world of automobiles. From reviews on the latest vehicles to vintage rides to tips on keeping your family safe on the road, AutomotiveMap.com has something for you. If you love cars, trucks, and SUVs, and the amazing technology hitting your favorite showrooms, check out the brand new AutomotiveMap.com. The main event.
Concert t-shirts and special sporting event t-shirts, too expensive. Much too expensive. Way too expensive. The max you should be allowed to charge for those are like $40. I think that's even too much. Nobody's paying $40 for a t-shirt? What t-shirt? You realize how much money that is? Just like the max. The max. I wouldn't even say that. I would not pay for any t-shirt that's more than $30. That's just my rule. You should always have an affordable shirt for the people that just squeaked in there or got free tickets to go that typically wouldn't buy the tickets because a gazillion dollars for a t-shirt, that ain't cut. $75, $80 for t-shirts, that ain't cut. Okay, bro, man. Back in my day, Jose, they weren't $80. Okay, and the artist stood outside and sold it out of their trunk for $20, and there wasn't no Venmo and Cash App. You had to have 20 in your hand and hand it over to them. Because back in my day, the people cared about the people.
The main event, weekday afternoons at 4 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. The main event.
Guess what I had for lunch today, Dick? Some salad? Some salmon. That did not look like salmon. It was small filet. It was disgusting. Is filet? It looked disgusting. Isn't filet a different type of fish? No! No, you did not decide that. Save it, make it a promo. Oh my God! What am I confusing you with? Oh no! McDonald's? I don't know. Filet of fish?
The main event, weekday afternoons at 4 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. The main event.
Guess what I had for lunch today, Dick? Some salad? Some salmon. That did not look like salmon. It was small filet. It was disgusting. Is filet? It looked disgusting. Isn't filet a different type of fish? No, you did not decide that. Save it, make it a promo. Oh my God! What am I confusing you with? McDonald's? I don't know. Filet of fish?
The main event, weekday afternoons at 4 Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
Alright,
SB Nation AM.
got in Clippers minus 5.5. It's the lowest it would go.
Did his house up this year. All Christmassy. It looks really great.
You got a couple of those.
Saying that if you go down the gauntlet, I think you're taking on some battle now. Yeah, I've gone back and forth because my wife goes, oh.
Come on, George.
Yeah, I did. And she goes, well, what are we going to do? And I go, well, nothing this year. You know what show I'm addicted to? And I get addicted to it every holiday season.
That Karl Anthony Towns 3 and 1's to the high water mark. That's what I'm betting on, man.
And it's almost like a sad story. And so what inspired you to do this? Your mom loves Christmas.
Oh, man, they just switch off on Towns. It's terrible.
Christmas too. Like, yeah, right. Exactly. We were just cranky the entire time because we were the ones looking
Push
at
it.
the bills going, you spent what?
Are you watching this game at all?
No, I'm cutting myself up right now.
WD, weekday mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
Let's go, Montrez!
Houston Oilers and Experience 1970s football with red, white, and Columbia blue. The new audiobook at Houston79.com. A game-by-game recap of the 1979 Houston Oilers season.
Anything I can do, man.
Step into the huddle for legendary games against the
I'm playing a Blau stack. Don't throw with a Blau. You never saw that shitty ass movie, I'm sure. Lucas.
Yeah, he was so bad last week.
Yeah. Dude, I'm telling you, I'm running 5 lineups in 2 different tournaments, in a $4 entry and a $1 entry. And one of these lineups is going to be like a Blau, like just a fucking.
I can buy the parts I need online and pick them up on the way home. It's so quick and easy. I don't have to worry about losing daylight to get my
But I ran it back with Godwin and Howard in that game.
Real quick, I do like Godwin. Real quick, what do you want to pick for sour? We have the.
Yeah. So Real or Fake.
Apologize.
Yeah. My apology. DFS chat of the week and fake news with you. And make sure you tag you too.
Second level thinking is defined as looking beyond the easy, obvious conclusions. You've got to do some smart thinking.
Kamara out this week.
To the second level. To the second
It's only 6,800 on
And on
DraftKings.
SBSRadio.com.
Believe that? James Conner's questionable in Houston. Stay away from him? We have once again found ourselves with a lot to get to in only 60 minutes to do it, so we'll do our best. And first and foremost, I feel like we need to start off next segment with an apology, because I began last hour very upset, very frustrated, to the point in which I thought I might say something that, if Brendan's quick fingers didn't catch, would get me in trouble. But luckily, I was able to keep my cool just to the point in which, I guess, to the point in which I didn't curse. That's all relative, that statement. But now, as I was able to not only get in where I thought I could not, I also need to look back with the benefit of hindsight, offer an apology. We've got fake news coming up at 12:40 Eastern Time. And in between that, our DFS weekly chat. And something just came up in the conversation in the break. Hopefully you're following along on Twitch, where you can watch Maze and Eitan is the Twitch channel. You can also hear Brendan, because we talk, so the speaker's up and we go down the line. There's a lot of conversation that people are reacting to in the breaks as well. And one thing we just...
Definitely value in hearing.
I would think so, right? With what... Yeah, because we talk about a lot of things. Now, again, no, especially throughout the hour, because there are things that we discuss that we need to hit on, or you have an idea about, hey, let's cut some audio up, let's do this, or just random. See, that's another thing. If people are watching on the Twitch channel, they get to hear all these great ideas that rarely happen, because I blow through stuff. And how many times do I say, hey, let's talk about this, and then we don't even get to it till the second hour, and you're like, dude, I just tweeted that we were going to talk about it last hour.
I think, with the exception of last week where things went almost perfect, it's happened to every show I've worked with. According to that.
Oh my god. Oh, by the way, that contrarian play of the week that Peralt's on is the Panthers. Everybody else, including me, was on the Seahawks coming into that game. And now all of a sudden, Matt Peralt thinks that, no. Carolina's finally going to show up to play. I don't know, man. Still at 6.5?
I do a 10-game parlay every week, like I told you. And with no college football, it has to be all NFL this week. And I couldn't bring myself to bet the Seahawks. I left that game entirely out.
Oh.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. I have 4 cuts for you.
Got
I
it.
think we should both bet with at least 1, maybe 2. Here's how I've saved them, so you know. Awful Fox Bets app.
Is it in chronological order of the breakdown?
I'm going to tell you the chronological order. So it's Awful Fox Bets app. In-game betting is awful. The value is gone. And then the last one is you talking about how you might be being cheated.
Okay, this is fantastic.
So I definitely think bump back with at least Awful Fox Bets.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
And then
It's 3.99% APR, and so I don't really know how you want to continue to move.
no, so maybe we'll bounce back to that. I'll respond to the comment and then set up.
Better than you just saying, like, I think it's better if it's like I play it, you respond, then you to tell me, okay, like, play more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like you just follow and you naturally like.
Yeah.
I'll shut up when I hear a cut.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, no problem.
Like, ideally, I could see you and you could point to me, but we don't have that, so
Yeah.
I take pauses.
So be basic. We don't like to see the same neighboring gifts every year. So surprise them
I think it'll be fun.
That's fine too. Yeah, you can always watch on. I don't know if it's.
Imagine there's a delay there.
Is there?
I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. There is.
Just pause for 10 seconds while I wait to play it.
Yep.
anywhere else. So check out giftymap.com. That's giftymap.com. Change it up.
These guys run the clock out, man. George and Kawhi are just fantastic, and now all of a sudden they're missing shots.
Outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news. Now you can
Well, play some defense.
huge discount. Generic
Mikey Heads. Yes, sir.
$650 on Viagra. Why pay new brand prices of $15 per pill or more?
Damn.
You can get the same
Come on, get a
results for
bucket here.
less than $3 a pill. Call today and get 50 generics.
That's gotta be Mike, right?
For just $99. Call.
Yeah. Ooh, that should be and one. 5.5. Yes. Yes. It was right after Towns hit an and 1-3. They've got a great defensive unit on the floor. No! Are you serious? That's a foul, but Harrell wasn't? No, now Towns is down. Mother. Towns is hurt. You see this? You're mad at me?
Ahead of me.
Oh. You're ahead of me. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. He's not doing anything to me. I'm just saying I've seen him down. And he stays down a bit.
Is he up?
Yes, he is.
Alright. Damn. I'd almost hoped that at that point he stayed down.
Scratching beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Eitan Shander.
For the last 5 minutes, 5 minutes of real time, I've been trying to get in on this god-awful Fox Bet app.
Well, let me be the first to issue an apology to the people at Fox Bet for providing a fantastic experience, in-game experience, and one that I was greatly misguided. I thought at the time, an hour ago, I was trying to get in to a lock. Warriors, Jazz, it was tight. In fact, it was a 2-point Jazz lead. Warriors are plus 300 on the money line, and I saw them slowly take the lead even, and I could not get in. It would not let me in, so as you heard, I lost it.
Look, the game is going on, and I'm still trying to get in. I can't believe that this app could be so bad. Unfortunately, this is a representation of how awful in-game betting is with the app.
Yeah, at the time, I was caught in a moment at the time, and it looks like that somebody out there was looking out for me, and that's what I'm going to apologize and beg for forgiveness from Fox Bet as I watched the Utah Jazz pull away and win convincingly 114-106. This entire 8-minute process of me trying to get into a live bet resulted in a meltdown, and I can't even justify it. Like, I was removed from my mind and body an hour ago.
This is now a 6.5-minute process. Can you imagine? There's game time going on. The value has been lost at this point. At plus 105, I had him at 3-1, as far as plus 300. And then, of course, the game keeps going, and now we're in a situation right now where the value, at least, that I could have had is gone. They're up 2 with 4 minutes left.
Yeah, there was a... Look, at the time, I didn't know any better. Now, I know better. And now I attribute it to the app doing everything they could to prevent me. I've used the app before, and maybe this is instead of a free play, or instead of one of these chests or coins that you get to go to some store, they thought, let me just throw Shander a freebie. Because at the time, I'm thinking, wait, my mind is unwrapping right here. I don't understand how 6.5 minutes of game time is going by, and I'm watching value dwindle. Now, it turns out that the Jazz won the game. So I need to apologize. I can't really be that upset now, and I can't even begin to justify what I did. If the Warriors won, then maybe I could have replayed that and continued to add on. But now I look like a jackass.
And you can't get a bet in on a money line. What does that tell you? People are constantly looking for ways in which they're being cheated in this world of sports betting, right? There are constant conspiracies about, well, the games are fixed. This is probably the easiest thing to point to, which is, man, 3 minutes of game time has since passed in which the Warriors have gone from plus 300 to now plus 105 on this particular god-awful app, and still they're not taking bets.
Well, I have to retract my god-awful app statement now.
Eitan, I think you were on something here. I think you were being cheated. That's what I think happened. I think they knew the Warriors were going to win.
They lost!
Oh. Huh. Probably were being cheated, I guess.
No, not at this time. I think it was the opposite. I think there was... See, I think I had it right. Like, I was on the right track, but on the wrong train. Meaning, I had it right from the bigger picture, but the specific variable was wrong. There was somebody from that app looking out. There was somebody who intruded in on the bet. But instead of preventing me from doing this to win money, they were preventing me from doing this to lose money. Now, I'm hooked. I'm locked.
So you were just saying, if you want to hear some of the off-air conversations, to go to the Twitch channel. And I often have to hear you, not have to, but I hear you every week living through all your bets, because I don't think I've ever done this show without a bunch of bets. And a lot of times, it's a lot of complaining, living and dying with every play. I don't think you've ever had a moment where you got as upset as you were if you couldn't.
Yes! I was a child. I was a child.
This, what we just played, these complaints, this was after you composed yourself.
What you just heard was me. Yes. So in the break, I was going nuts.
I was already fingering over the dump button.
Yeah, here's the thing. I turned into a petulant child. I turned into a toddler. Yeah, I melted down, and I went conspiracy, and I went the worst possible terms. I need to blast them. I need to eviscerate. And look, if you've listened and you're familiar with me, I never do that with anything specific. We always have fun with side topics and secondary things that are outside of sports. But in this case, I was just so frustrated that value was just disintegrating in my hands like dust, something turning to dust. So you heard it. You heard me act like a child, and I have nothing to say, but I'm sorry. There is nothing else I can add to this conversation except for the fact that I am sorry. I apologize, and in-game betting is a tremendous thing. And speaking of which, the live game, the action, I was able to get in. I was able to get into another game, so not only did the great people at the Fox Bet app look out for me and prevent me from jumping in-game on that Warriors Jazz, that Warriors money line, and losing it. Instead, I was able to get into the Clippers-Wolves game. Kawhi Leonard, 40 points. What's happening, we'll talk about this coming up, as well as our DFS chat, but actually we have a couple of minutes now. What's happening with this Clippers game is something interesting, to say the least. The combination of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard might not be on fuller, from a fuller extent of, or at least expression of strength that we've seen than tonight, where you've got both guys over 40 points, not going to be able to hit 50 each, but they're Kawhi on the line, about to put it away with the second free throw. So the team is up 6 with about 40 left. I know it might be a little behind depending on where you are. Actually, they're up 7 right now with 28 left. And it's been 44-42 from George and Kawhi respectively. The only other guy you've gotten any type of offensive productivity from has been Montrezl Harrell, who has just been a gem coming off the bench. Wolves had a chance to kind of cut it close, but they turned the ball over now, and it doesn't look good by any means for Minnesota. They're not going to win this basketball game, my point of it is, but it's more just the storyline of what can be. Now, it's amazing to me, and this isn't a true representation of his performance, but I wonder, since the inclusion in the day-to-day inclusion of the plus-minus, right? I wonder how many people have scored 40-plus points and been 0, maybe in the negative, like at the most 0. Negative would be difficult, like you'd have to be, and again, he wasn't far off, but Paul George, think about this. Harkless played 29 minutes, he scored 5 points, but he was on the floor with Kawhi and Zubac a bunch, and that's what got him plus. Now he's plus 20. Kawhi drops 42, he's plus 15. Look, the Wolves got some productivity out of their 2 guys in Wiggins and Towns, nearly at 40 apiece. But outside of that, there was nothing with Jeff Teague adding 20. That was just it off the bench, and that comes in bench points. But for Towns to go 39 and finish plus 3, 44 points. I mean, I guess you could look at Towns as well, just because he's hovering. But I wonder even, and look, that's an advanced analytic stat right there, but the plus-minus itself is not. It would just be how many guys have dropped 40-plus points and have finished at most plus 0. Maybe in the negative as well. Because George had a really good game tonight. George was all over the place. Kawhi Leonard was there as well, and this team has really continued to, push and push. Now the Wolves have just handed this basketball game over at the end. Turnover after turnover, bad pass. Clippers about to be put on the line again. I mean, this has been horrific here. And on the same night in which the LA Lakers handed the Heat their first loss in Miami, there's been plenty of discussion about the night that LeBron James had, and with Anthony Davis being there as a component of it as well. A lot of talk about just cruising, and even if the Clippers can hold up. I mean, that's, I think, somewhat of the conversation shifting to if the Clippers themselves can keep up. It was, can the Lakers put something together to defeat the Clippers? And I don't think it's totally shifted. It is kind of like a seesaw right now. But as the Clippers win games with both Paul George and Kawhi Leonard dominating and putting up humongous offensive performances like they did tonight, it's going to shift back to Clippers are the top dog, and what are the Lakers doing right now to knock them off? But I tell you this, I'm here for it. I'm here for the weekly shift in that conversation. Same team, same city, same organization as far as the Lakers, depending on just the names and faces changing. But when they're good, that conversation is always there. And then you have the new kid on the block with both Leonard and Paul George that are basically rewriting the Clippers story as they go out and play bucket by bucket. I'm here for it. The internal drama in LA between these two teams, as you know, Steve Ballmer and the Clippers have been wanting to do this, but now they have the clout with the players to do it. And man, if you were able to knock them off, Western Conference Final, however it may play out, depending on where the seeding is and the reseeding that they're going to try to do, if you could get a conference finals between LeBron, Anthony Davis, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard, that might be highest as far as this NBA Finals. Even if it's my Sixers, I concede that. But that might be one of the higher rating series that you could match up with NBA Finals. I mean,
I'm so jealous of fans who had 7 home games.
that is true. No travel at all. I wonder, how difficult it would be to get tickets you know what I'm saying? Like for the Clippers fans going to watch the Lakers play and vice versa. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see that. All right,
You get 7 Lakers home games.
dude. I don't know. You don't. Not if you're a Clippers fan.
Oh, no, I'm saying if they play each other in the conference finals, it may look like 7 home games.
Yeah, I would think so. I don't know. That's an interesting question. We would need Kurt Heelan or somebody out west to come on and give us some insight. Let's see if maybe we'll do that next Friday. We've got our DFS weekly chat coming up next. 15 minutes from now, fake news. I see people already tweeting about it. Boston Strangler. Now, we also had a pretty funny moment before the show even began that we should relive for all those joining us. At Shander Show on Twitter, Maze and Aton on Twitch. It's SB Nation Radio. They covered 7 points.
There we go. You know, I was expecting to see you go off. I don't know who that was, Bryant. He missed 12 free throws.
I know. I was.
Well, he right now was timing to go off.
Yeah, I guess. That was a great. I hope I executed it okay. That was a great idea. Okay, good. No, I thought it was a fantastic idea, man. So you're running Gurley in every.
I don't even look at that stuff till tomorrow.
No, I was up early. I was up at like 3 a.m. this morning because I couldn't sleep, so I was just looking through it. Now I hope Cook plays, but I don't know if he does. He was a full participant Friday.
The gold standard.
There's really nothing that comes to mind when it breaks.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll throw a question out there. Let's start there.
Yeah, I think that works.
Okay.
Chat's a good word. There we go. The throwback derby, as it is throwback summer. Taking glory about Laura Branigan and making it. That's something I thought I'd never say in the history of sports.
Man, I won $15 in my tournament on the Thursday night game, and if I had not played Justin Tucker and played that dude, he was like $400. He caught, I think, the last. Yeah. If I had just swapped, because the winner, that was the difference. I had enough.
DFI pushed, right?
Yeah, did he? I don't know. I forget.
Oh, the Jet or
No, it was the Raven. No. I played the Jet, and I used him as a captain in one of my leagues.
didn't work out as a good captain, but he was a good play.
Yes.
I have done far better in single games this year than I have in the full weeks. So I started pretty much every week. I play a $5 season or a weekly routine.
It says, me and my friends and all of their
Interesting.
significant others are going out.
I mean, I think it's probably because in a single game, I'm all in on go as contrarian as possible. And if you miss, you miss. But like, there's not a big difference between losing and winning.
Yeah, the problem that I saw on Monday night was you needed, like, you weren't going to win that league, that tournament, unless you had Slayton, Ertz, and I think it was Wentz. But it was like 3 guys that, when you look at all the, you know what I mean? Like, it was a combination of chalk. And I don't know, at this point, like, I don't know how a contrarian play can help you against Lamar Jackson at this point, right? You almost have to play him.
I MVP on SB Nation.
Yeah, me too.
There's a single game on Monday, on Sunday, and on Thursday. So I get 3 chances. I'm just trying to hit them.
Yeah, that's true.
Highly Auto Parts Studios. Here's Aton Shander.
So I have a question for you, and we do this each and every Friday night. Actually, we should have done this an hour ago. Shame on me. We've locked this in at 11:25 Eastern Time, and I don't know what the hell happened, but maybe I was melting down trying to get in on that live bet. And thank you, FoxBet, for allowing me to get into an in-game bet with the Clippers at -5.5 after Karl Anthony Towns hits an and one 3-pointer. The place is going nuts. They're down by 5. Everybody thinks this is the run. but instead it was the Clippers who pulled away, despite, and you mentioned this in the break, 2 missed free throws that could have put that game, at least the cover, out of commission. But instead, I sweated out and I watched it play out. And thankfully, the people there allowed me to get into that, which is even further proof, mind you, that I have an angel on my shoulder at Fox Bet. Shame on me for thinking the opposite, which is that there was some deep-rooted conspiracy to prevent me from winning money. No, in fact, it's, I think, more the complete 180. All right, so let's look at this. I have a question for you, and it's regarding the Thursday through Monday night leagues, but on the opposite end. So just to recap, one of the best pieces of advice you've given out here is to get into the Thursday through Monday night tournaments, and at the very least, play nobody on Thursday night. So watch people load up on guys, 50% to 40 to 30% drafted and used, and they're all playing the same amount, especially if it's a donut, then you can step in. So I'm going to give you a specific example of something that could happen to a lot of people week to week if they're following your advice. And there's a guy in T.Y. Hilton who, if he plays, is really good, and especially if you're stacking New Orleans and you're going to breeze stack, you want to run it back with the best available guy, that would be T.Y. Hilton. But he's up in the air. Now, how do you approach this on a Thursday through Monday situation tournament? Because normally it's like, well, you take him, and then if he can't play, then you go, Pascal or something like that. But you're running a risk of locking up that position for a pretty significant drop.
To be honest with you, I think we differ in this way. I just try to avoid primetime players altogether because I think, generally speaking, they're going to be overplayed. So
even on a Monday night for these Thursday through Monday,
it's okay to play the Monday night because you're really trying to take advantage of on a Thursday through Monday are people who want to watch the players right then and there. But in general, when you're playing the Thursday through Monday, I think you get people who are squeezing, even if it's only one player, and it probably is only one, where like, if you go to your lineup right now and you look who's at the top, I look at mine. The guy in the top of my league on Thursday night has 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players already done. The only thing he's waiting on is a flex in the defense. Mm-hmm. You're not going to have anybody in these Thursday through Mondays playing 7 players on Monday night. But it wouldn't surprise me if you got people trying to squeeze in 1 or 2 so that they can enjoy Sunday night or Monday night. I just in general try to avoid those. I mean, if you're gonna play them, I don't hate going the route you're saying and planning on T.Y. Hilton, and if he doesn't play, backing out. And the reason is because ultimately, I believe in taking risks with the lineup. With daily fantasy, if you're playing GPP tournaments, which is what we talk about every week, then you want to be. It's a risk reward game. It's boom or bust. You're trying to win big, or you're not trying to win at all. And so, if the thought process is, I'm going to have a guy nobody's going to have because he may not play, then I like it. And here's the other thing. You know what you do in that situation? You try your hardest, and it doesn't always work, to get him in the flex. That way you're not stuck on going down from T.Y. Hilton to Zach Pascal.
Get him in the flex as far as you take another wide receiver.
Right. If you put T.Y. Hilton in the flex as opposed to whoever else you put there, I guess it's going to be different platform to platform. I don't even know how DraftKings lineups.
No, that makes sense.
They have a flex on there as well?
Yep.
Okay, because I use FanDuel primarily where they have a flex. And so what happens is once you put them in the flex, now you have every running back and wide receiver at your disposal as opposed to just wide receivers. I think that's my easiest answer. It creates a little bit of a problem in that it forces you to play an additional wide receiver. But if T.Y. Hilton doesn't play, now you have more options at your disposal. And that's not just Monday night. That's just in general. It's smart to play. Like, try not to, if you can avoid it. Mm-hmm. If you have players playing both the early games and the afternoon games, the second set of games, try to have the player in the flex be from that later set of games because there's multiple reasons you could change it. It could be injury, but we've talked about it before. It can also just be that he's too chalk and your lineup struggling.
Yes, and then, right.
You want to give yourself as much flexibility with adjusting your lineup during the day as possible.
Okay, now that does make sense, and I think you can look at having the availability to play, especially if I put Hilton in my flex leading up to Monday night. he's out, or I'm down 20 points. Now I can flex into a running back, I can flex into Pascal, or I can even flex into Doyle, if that's the case, where maybe he's not as high played in that regard, right? So there are multiple reasons why that would be better off there. Now, would you just stay away from the game? And if you are going to do that, that would probably be, for example, if you're going to run a Breeze stack, right? Whoever the three guys are in New Orleans, would you even put in Hilton, or would you put somebody else in for the Colts, knowing that Hilton's up in the air?
I don't look at that stuff this far in advance, so it's really hard to tell you.
Well, it's a hypothetical.
I don't have a problem putting in Hilton because he's high risk, high reward, and that's what you're looking for. And even he becomes even more high risk, high reward with the injury. Because you know he's going to play, and if he does play, how he'll be. I think it makes sense. If what you're asking me is because you're talking about possibly running it back with the Breeze stack.
Correct.
Yeah, if you want to run it back with the Breeze stack, you want to go wide receiver. Or try that. You could go Jack Doyle. But you're probably really only considering Hilton, Pascal, or Doyle.
Okay, that's fair. No, that makes sense. At Shander Show, we should be giving out your Twitter more as well.
At Brendan Riley _.
There you go. I knew there was an underscore there. It's at the end. So what's the record right now for everybody who's about to experience fake news for the first time? I'm going to hit you with that coming up in 4 minutes. What's the record right now? I think I've battled back slowly, but I think I've battled back.
I think we're even. I think we're at 500, which is impressive.
Wow.
We lost 3 in a row at one point.
I'm like just heading to the playoff stretch here. But
I got a theme on this one for you that you'll see when we get
I'm interested. All right. Fake news, we do it each and every night, 12:40 Eastern Time on the West Coast. Well, you're probably immersed in SmackDown right now, so maybe you can just mute the TV, jack the radio, the app, however you're consuming SB Nation Radio up. Coming back.
This is Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, and we want to help your house feel more like a home with some of the lowest refinancing rates ever. Rates have dropped so much that many Americans can reduce their rate. You may be able to save money on your monthly mortgage payment right now. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.99%, APR 4.18%. Call us at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rates subject to change. Pay 1.375% fee received discount rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states and NMLS number 3030.
This is Wesley's O'Reilly Auto Parts store.
I'm just getting off work. There's only so many hours left in the day, so I definitely don't want to spend all my time waiting in line for car parts. With O'Reilly, I can buy the parts I need online and pick them up on my way home. It's so quick and easy, I don't have to worry about losing daylight to get my car up and running.
They do want Gurley in every lineup, man.
They know what they're doing.
I ran. I'm setting up now. I mean, I change it as it gets closer. But
I usually set it up on Saturday night, and then make adjustments on Sunday.
I have a Tannehill stack with Henry, Brown, and then back with Hopkins and Fells.
I'm in the second round of the playoffs in my main league this year, and I deeply care about my main league. It's been going on for like 15 years with all my closest friends. It's not even a money league, and it's still intense as hell. And I have Derrick Henry, and I'm just like scared out of my mind that this is going to be the week he falls flat. I had a bye week last week, and he went nuts.
Elite man boosting formula.
Oh, that sucks. That's the worst, man. Bye week, first week of the playoffs.
I think I mentioned it to you. Well, I mean, it's good, and he's supposed to play.
Right.
But he went off. But I think I mentioned it to you. In this league, I've never won a first round playoff game, never lost a second round playoff game.
Text main to 321-321.
And this is the second round.
Yeah, when I get a bye, I always make sure to.
If you're drowning in debt you can't afford, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking.
I bet you part of why I care so deeply is because the Lions suck so much. I don't care about the Lions this season very often.
That could be it.
A
Yeah.
way to get debt-free without paying off your entire debt.
They like the.
If you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt,
So they're all over the Dallas Rams stack.
a fraction of what you owe. For free information, call Credit Associates now. 1-800-959-52.
Which one in particular?
They've got 3 different stacks, 2 Prescotts and 1 Goffs.
Call Credit Associates now for free information.
They also have Watson and Mahomes. These are the game stacks, the games that we feel could either offer value in GPP or offer a chance at the high-scoring game of the slate. So this is in the write-up. This is not just at the top. This is lower.
Yeah, I always look at that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you. Yeah, I didn't realize that until you brought it up to me.
You're not paying for.
I thought I was just paying for the top part.
Yeah, no, that's like the I don't have time version.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was doing.
Scratching beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loan.
I do have the Eitan Thomas stuff.
Yeah, let's do that real quick.
Here's Eitan Shander.
What's up?
Not Eitan Thomas. And there were people who began listening on the show here, I don't know, 2 hours and 40 minutes ago, as we first set sail tonight, who were deeply disappointed. And it happened based off of a mistake, and it was a normal mistake that happens with me and to me all the time in my life. And to be honest, this was barely a mistake because Craig Koshkin, who did a fantastic job hosting before me on the network, was ending his show and did what any great host would do, which is look up at your producer, who's coming up next, so I can say this person is coming up next. And this is what Craig let it do. Now, you imagine how many people took that honest mistake because he was reacting to Brendan in his ear telling him who's coming up next. And when you hear Eitan Shander for the first time, that's like hearing a different language, somebody talking in a language that you're not familiar with. Whatever language you know outside of English, it's a different language. And instead, Craig went with Eitan Thomas, and I felt really bad. One, because, look, that's a lot to throw on somebody right away without even hearing the name and having it pronounced right in front of you and all that. So it's tough on Craig, but he still nailed the first name, which is beyond impressive. And then, think of the letdown. Think of all the people that were listening to Craig finish his fantastic program. And now you get to go from Craig Koshkin to Eitan Thomas, and you get on a night in which there's the Lakers and Heat, on a night in which you have the Clippers and 2 guys in George and Kawhi Leonard going off 40-plus apiece. I get to hear from a former NBA player, Eitan Thomas, break it all down, live in-game reaction. And instead you got that. You got Eitan Shander, who broke down like a child and blamed a bet app for a conspiracy of preventing me from winning money. And instead, an hour later, when I found out that the game I was trying to get in live hit the opposite way, and in fact, I saved my own money thanks to the people there looking out at Fox Bet, I had to issue an apology.
Look, the game is going on, and I'm still trying to get in. I can't believe that this app could be so bad.
And instead, me not getting in saved me some money because I was all over salivating at the opportunity of the Golden State Warriors winning that game outright, and instead I'm melting down on the air like Home Alone 4. Can't find my parents now because I couldn't get into that app. All right, that pretty much encapsulates what we did for the first 2 hours and 40 minutes. That's it, fake news.
Fake news with Brendan. With all the fake news out there, don't believe the size. It's on Shander to give it to you straight. 3 stories, but only one is fake. True. I know it's a weird thought, but it's true. Can Shander spot the fraud? Here's Brendan Riley.
All right, Eitan, I'm kind of disappointed, but you've gotten 2 in a row. Really hoping to end that this week.
I know. I could tell it bothered you that I won last week.
All right, story number 1. Bus full of school kids evacuated over too much Axe body spray in Florida. A Florida student's use of Axe body spray was so overwhelming that a school bus driver pulled over and called for help, thinking something was wrong.
What could be wrong? Oh my God. I'm sorry, is there more?
No, that's it.
So, the first thing I thought of, and I Googled it just to see, the different I guess not flavors, but scent, right? The different scents of Axe body spray. Do you know what Gold Citron smells like versus Dark Temptation versus Ice Chill versus Fresco Body?
No, I'm not in middle school.
Okay. Can you only wear Axe in middle school?
I
So,
wouldn't say only. I mean, you can wear it whenever. I just think that's where it's popular. That's where you're going to recognize the smells.
really? So this is like when I grew up in middle school, people were spraying this cologne Dracar all over the
Oh,
place.
it's incredibly popular in middle school. I mean, I don't know if it is anymore, but it was when I was in middle school.
And how old are you now? 24, right?
26, and this
Oh,
is
geez, sorry, 26.
middle schoolers.
Okay, right. It is middle schools. Now, my fiance is an 8th grade teacher, so I should have known about, if it's true, I should have known about this, or she alerts me to crazy stories that happen with kids in school just because she's a teacher as well. But man, I mean, just think about how much body spray. Okay, the second thing I was thinking of, because it's middle school, so let's be fair, as much as people don't want to hear this, 7th and 8th graders are sneaking booze when they can. It's unfortunate, but good parents are sniffing it out. And they're smoking weed. It's just a reality. I hear stories all the time about kids, 8th grade 13-year-olds getting in trouble for, bringing pot brownies or, getting caught with a joint or something like that, all right? So I wonder, and that's why I ask, you're on the bus, you can crack the windows a little bit. I wonder if somebody back there had a pinner and was trying to light it up and covering the smell with Axe. Like, why else would you have an overwhelming amount of Axe body spray in that bus, outside of it just being every single child has sprayed themselves with Axe body spray?
I didn't even think of your answer. That's a really good. You put a lot of thought into that.
Well, when you've covered up a lot of weed smoke in your life, my friend.
I kind of had a feeling it was an experience, Mitch.
So, real quick, I was in high school, and my mom had it, and I was sent to this prep school up in Washington, Connecticut. It's called the Gunnery. It wasn't a military school. It was named after a guy named Frederick Gunn. But I was up there, and I found out that at the time, you could turn a Bic pen, if you bite off both sides of it, you can turn it into a mini bowl, where you can just put a little bit of bud on the back end of it, light it, and there you have it. So you're in your room, it's light, you're relegated to your room 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, no common room area like that, if it's shut down, closed, whatever. So people found ways, right? And smoked a little bud, whatever, you go to bed. And I was so paranoid that it would smell. Somebody, and this is how much of an idiot I was when I first came in there, and I'm 14 years old, freshman at the time, technically 15, or sophomore, so technically I had to repeat. But somebody told me, oh, no, instead of spraying like aerosol or something like that, it's going to be too obvious. You just dump a little baby powder in your fan and have that kind of spread around the room. So me not knowing what to do, I thought, all right, well, I bought this big thing of baby powder, and I was lighting up this big pen of bud, and I dumped it on the back of my fan, and it looked like it was a snowstorm in my room. Just the entire thing.
Amazing story.
Now, the good news is that it didn't smell like bud. The bad news is that I was taking baby powder out of my clothes in bed for a week. All right, sorry.
Right. Story number 2, now that we've gone off of that tangent. Florida man steals cashier's credit card and is caught attempting to pay for his groceries at her cash register. It's not known how he got a hold of her card. The police were called and the man was charged with credit card theft.
So what did he actually charge?
It was his groceries. He tried to pay his groceries at the cash register.
At the same store in which she worked at, right?
It doesn't even tell me if he worked there or not. And all I know is he stole the cashier's credit card.
No, what I'm saying, he stole the cashier's credit card, and then at the store that the cashier worked at.
Yes.
Right.
Ran through his lane.
Right, exactly. Which is as Florida as it gets, right? I mean, there are differences, there are subtle differences between the Alabama story, the Florida story.
You didn't catch it, though. Axe body spray story was also a Florida
story. I did, yes. And I imagine the third story will be Florida as well. Is that the theme? Okay. Now, this is tough. This is difficult. This is... How can I describe this? This is like, 3-card Monte where I'm trying to chase the queen and they all look the same because you've done a good job of... Normally, one Florida story in this would give it away. That's a tough one. That's really believable. First one I was kind of struggling back and forth with, trying to find the root cause as far as why that spray would be out there, but this is a tough one here. I'm kind of torn. I'm with my buddy on Twitch here, Mason Aton, Bo316, gut reaction. I want to hear story 3. Yeah, I think we need to hear one more before I even weigh in on that second one.
All right, the final story: Florida man eaten by alligator actually died from meth overdose. According to the autopsy,
My God.
the Florida man who was found dead had already died from an overdose.
And it was...
initially called because somebody saw an alligator attacking the man.
I wonder how... So, clearly this man owned an alligator and was also in possession of a lot of methamphetamine, correct?
I'm not of the belief he owned an alligator. This is in Florida where alligators are quite common.
Yeah.
Some thought he had drowned actually initially.
Okay, so that now begins to make sense. That guy gets blasted off a bunch of meth, finds his way into a pool of water where he drowns, and then as his body is there, it gets eaten by an alligator. That's a fair assessment of the chronology, right?
Well, he did not drown. He had overdose, and then the alligator attacked him. There was some thought he may have drowned.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly, and that's my point is that so where is this? The story popped initially from like the salacious, crazy, weird angle of it is
Florida man
eaten by alligator, right?
Actually died from that overdose.
Right. Okay. Now again, I don't know. You make it seem like getting eaten by an alligator in Florida is a common thing. I don't necessarily believe that.
No, I don't believe that to be the case either. That being said, I do know, as someone who spent a lot of time in Florida growing up, a lot of people are more aware. It is I don't know if threat's the word I want to use, but as I grew up in Michigan, we didn't think about alligators.
No, look,
in Florida, they do think of alligators. It's something they're aware of.
They're conscious or cognizant.
That's a good way to put it.
Yes, okay, I agree. All right, now let's recap. Why don't you go through 1 through 3? This is really good, and I have to be honest, like last time, and win or lose, I've been torn here, but again, I think I said this last week, and now I have to bump it up another level. This is the most confused I've been to date.
All right, story number 1. Busboy school kids evacuated over too much Axe body spray in Florida. Florida students' use of the body spray was so overwhelming that a school bus driver pulled over and called for help. Story number 2. Florida man steals cashier's credit card and is caught attempting to pay for his groceries at his cash register. And story number 3, Florida man eaten by alligator actually died from meth overdose first.
Okay, so the fake story, I think the fake story is number 2. I think number 1, 13-year-olds trying to hide a joint in the back of a school bus makes way too much sense. And number 3, meth eaten by an alligator, Florida, adds up more for me than... Like, the credit card story is great, but I do think it could be anywhere. The Florida story in the third one, I feel like could only be in Florida. Which I guess could be me talking my way out of it, saying, well, that's the reason why it's fake, is because it could only be in Florida. But I'm going to go, not double, but triple reverse psychology and say, real one is number 1, real one is number 3, fake one is number 2.
And that is the third correct time.
Oh! Alright, now, again, the only one I was truly able to reason out of was number 1. No, I was totally torn between... Honestly, I flipped a coin in my head. I really did. I know I gave some reason here, but the reality is I flipped a coin in my head. I had no idea. That was awesome. The first one, the only reason why is because I've...
How good I am at this, and you're up 4-3.
Well, look, though, these are tough, man. These are tough. You can ask Hernandez in the back, man. It's it's hard researching stuff and pulling things up. Mike was doing it with me for a little bit, and I commend you for having me twisted like this. It came down to a 50-50 in my head only because I've been there. I've been in the back of that school bus. I've done that, except we didn't have ace or axe. In this case, we had Jakar and Juke. All right, we'll wrap the show coming up next. Eitan Shander, SB Nation Radio. That was awesome.
As somebody who did nothing wrong when I was in school, I didn't even consider that possible.
Yeah, I assume that the statute of limitations is up for me admitting that I smoke weed, so. Yeah. No, man, I'm telling you, just because I got it right, don't think of it like that. That's, like, they really, and I like that you play that up, by all means. Like, play it up as much as you want. You can be as upset.
I think for the most part, they've been pretty good.
They've been awesome.
I can't imagine you will keep up on a score or
No.
4 out of every 7.
No.
It's been selling. Anytime you see my name, because it's that, once you diagnose number 2, I was like, okay, you probably aren't going to fall for that one. Because that definitely can be done anywhere. Once you, explain why.
Yep.
Piece, it's going to be free. Videos, it's going to be free. I just don't believe in it. It's a personal preference.
I remember my junior year of high school, I was in theater. And big part of theater was half parties.
Okay.
And one of the kids in theater, his parents were out of town for months and months. And that was I would never be the one to do anything wrong in high school.
Right.
I just didn't tell my parents. They didn't ask. I didn't tell them. And then one day we were given a friend who was also in theater a ride home, and he goes, "You know his parents are home?" And I was like, "Wonderful, dude. Thank you." My mom was like, "Did you know?" I was like, "Oh, I had no idea."
Oh, wow.
And I didn't get to go after he told my parents.
Is that right?
Yep.
Oh, man.
Yeah, my parents weren't too bad, but I knew if they knew that, there's no way I'd be allowed to go.
Yeah, that would be it.
Sixth grade. I didn't even drink in high school. I mean, there was obviously drinking there, but I didn't drink in high school. I didn't smoke in high school. There's no reason I shouldn't have been able to go.
Right.
I'm actually a little extra careful.
I barely drank anything in high school, man. I'd have a beer or two at a party, but, cake party or something. But that would really be, especially in prep school, because I don't know, I didn't like it. I didn't like how I felt the next day. But so I didn't even smoke until I went to prep school, which is crazy. Is that I smoke a bunch, I still smoke a bunch, but I didn't even smoke until my sophomore year of high school, because my first high school, I was one of the worst athletes in a group of athletes that went on to play D1 and other stuff. So we all went, Friday night, we would go to one of our buddies' houses and play Bill Walsh tournaments. And there wouldn't be any smoking or drinking, you know what I mean? These guys are all going to play college football and stuff. So it was that versus going to a prep school where somebody was like, oh yeah, that's a day student. He doesn't live here. He goes home and he brings bud every day. And you want to smoke? It's just oh shit.
Scratching beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Eitan Shander.
Maybe you don't notice this, but the Miami Dolphins, over the last 3 games, their last 3 weeks playing football, and this is also part of the victimization of my Philadelphia Eagles, the Dolphins are the 6th highest scoring team over the last 3 weeks. They take on the Giants this Sunday, and there's no reason or no indication whatsoever that they won't be able to score points. In fact, and I'm curious because I did this earlier on my local show in Philadelphia today, Brendan, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. I'm now thinking, just because it's always that one game, right? It's like the Bucks, and I wouldn't be shocked even if it's the Bucks Lions, but despite what Vegas or Jersey or PA, whatever, who has the global market, has the totals out there, what do you think the highest scoring game will be? And I don't think that there's any real indication to say that it wouldn't be the Dolphins Giants based on Miami's ability to put up 30 plus over the last 3 weeks, and the Giants, who the one thing they can do is throw, especially with Eli Manning there.
That's a really interesting question. Without looking too deep into it, I think I want to say Tennessee, Houston.
Okay, so I think the chalk of all chalk would be Dallas, LA, Tennessee Houston is not total chalk, but that's one of the more obvious ones that I would say yes has a higher percentage of hitting.
I just think both those offenses are gonna get the job done.
Now, what about Bucks and your Lions, man?
I think that all comes down to whether or not Jameis Winston turns the ball over.
Well, he is going to turn the ball over.
Then I don't
Can
think
Blau?
crazy.
Okay. It's not going to be the Nuggets. It's not going to be the Broncos and the Chiefs. I can tell you that. All right, buddy. Great stuff. I'll talk to you, man.